about to go racing. 100 laps, 300 kilometres ahead of us. There is so much to play out over the next 3 hours of racing.
300 kilometres around this technical track is anyone's game.
There is so many unknowns, and in that respect we are going into the great unknown. Andrew Boydell and Jason Walsh are your 2023 Winton 300 winners.
Down here in the lane with Andrew Boydell, the defending race winner of the Winton 300, and also Todd Herring, who won the Sydney 300 a few weeks ago. For you to return as the defending winners, what's it like?
Returning is full of anticipation of hopefully we can match what we did last year. We're certainly pushing to win, but there's some stiff competition in the lane. We've had a change of co-driver this week, with Jason not being up to it after surgery this week or 4 weeks ago. So Todd has kindly stepped in for me at last minute, so he's got to learn the car today, and hopefully we can bring the pace to the race and the consistency to win.
Pretty good substitute to call up and get alongside you.
It is a very good substitute. It's the MX5 community is a really nice community. We all help each other, and we all try to step up.
For you, Todd, how many laps have you done to this point, and how different is it to the car that you're used to driving? Of course, an MX5 as well, but how does this one compare to yours?
I've had 3 laps in the car. It's very pointy compared to my car. A lot more turning than mine, but I'll get a full session at the end of the day, and we'll see if I can get used to it. Pump out some good laps.
And for you, obviously you're used to, with the Sydney 300, even more cars, but how do you think Winton, very different circuit to the Sydney layout?
Yeah, definitely. It's harder on the body and harder on the tyres, this one. But I think this thing's set up that well, it's really going to come into its own in this track. Compared to the front wheel drives and that, I think this will chew up the front wheel drives, front tyres a bit more than us, so hopefully we'll get them there.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys, and best of luck for the weekend.
And he's on the pace already. He's already started his lap, and he comes on to the main straight to get it underway. We can see he was warming up his tyres, gradually working up the pace, and he's gone for the flying exit in terms of his warm-up lap. And now he's pressing on as hard as he can. He has nailed the opening few corners in the 370Z, running wide ever so slightly, using as much track as he's allowed to do so. And he's got that car beautifully under control. Brings it up onto the curb on the right-hand side. You want to turn in nice and early here, and you can see there that demonstration of cutting across the ripple strip before running it wide as you possibly can to open up the exit, maximising as much speed as you can get in that short straight, and then scrubbing off as much pace as you're willing to coming into the sweeping long-hander at turn 6, and then deep under brakes going into turn 7. Bell, beautiful over the curbs there. That car is wonderfully balanced. It looks pretty steady. And I'm sure he's out there driving as hard as he possibly can. A little bit of understeer there, but he's still keeping it close to the apex around the tight right-hander going into turn 9. And then coming on to the old back straight. So he's got 3 more turns left in this lap. And we don't have any sector times to give you updated, but we'll keep an eye on the overall times as this session unfolds. Absolutely nails turn 10 in terms of corner exit. Quickly coming up to turn 11, still under control. He's wonderfully composed. Round turn 11, there's no mistakes there. Just 1 more turn before he comes onto the main straight to cap off the first flying lap in this top 10 shootout. The number 101 Race Pace Motorsports Nissan 370Z comes across the line there, and this will be our first benchmark time. It's a 1 minute 35.3. So that is a little bit off the pace that we saw in outright qualifying earlier this afternoon, but still a very clean and tidy lap. And as we said, Dan, anything can happen in this session because it's down to one driver, one car at a time. Based on last year's experience, anything can happen. And it's wonderful work by the organising body behind the Pitcher Partners Winton 300 event. That we've got the next car coming out almost as soon as the last lap was completed by Ryan Bell, and you can see there on screen a 1 minute 35.4. That is the task for Giantini to chase.
Absolutely. Giantini, we've got
a Giantini combination in car number 13 this weekend. Matthew Giantini and Aaron Giantini. And it's Matthew behind the wheel on this lap. In qualifying, they qualified position number 9. They were a 10th faster than the car we just saw, so they'll be looking to remain ahead. A bit like a top 10 shootout you see in supercars. 10th is come out first, and then the fastest car will be at the end of this session. Now, this combination really performed strongly in the Sydney 300 a couple of months ago. Very, very quiet achievers, plugged away at it, came through the field late on while chaos was happening around them with not only great speed but great strategy as well. And in the end finished second outright and winners of Class B. It was a brilliant performance from them, and they should be mighty proud of what they did in this little Honda Civic out there. So looking forward to seeing what they can do in the Winton 300, the Pitcher Partners Winton 300 here this weekend. But certainly a contender, I reckon, come the end of the race tomorrow if the car remains reliable. Two very capable steerers, and yeah, certainly one to look for. You'd almost call a joker, a potential wild card come late on tomorrow afternoon. The race will be finishing around this time. The sun will be setting like it is now, and the eyes are really in the drivers on that last corner where we just were, turn number 10, and also the final corner as well. So it'll be a hard right turn here at turn number 11, and then the sun is right in your eyes as you enter the final corner here in country Victoria. Lovely weather conditions here today. Blue skies all around. It's going to be a bit colder tomorrow, but it's going to be no rain anyway, which is great news. And here he comes. Matthew Giantini starts his sole lap as he heads down towards turn number 1. Oh, big kick of oversteer, huge kick of oversteer, and he's still fighting it. Look at his hands jostling around the wheel, just trying to keep it facing in the right direction. Brilliant car control from the Honda driver, but he had to fight hard for that. It just never looked comfortable from the moment he turned in at turn number 1. He was fighting the rear of the car all the way through the the left-hander, and then the right-hander as well. And he did keep it facing in the right direction, but there's no doubt about it. That would have cost a couple of tenths because it would have affected his run all the way out of turn number 2 and the blast up the hill towards turn number 3. You can still see him jostling at the wheel, pushing hard in this middle sector. This is where this car comes into its own. It's very good in the tight technical second sector of this Winton circuit as it blasts down now towards turn number 10. It was a nice smooth lap from Bell to start with. This has been ultra committed. He's thrown everything at it on this single lap here this afternoon. There's no doubt about it. Matthew has left nothing on the table as he rounds turn number 11 and into turn 12. He's so early on the power, you can hear him feeding it in from the apex of the corner. A great run out the corner. He keeps it shallow to the line, the shortest distance to the line, and he goes top. He goes top, a 34.61, 7/10 of a second clear of the first time set by Bell. That's a really nice lap from Giantini. A very, very committed lap out there on the race circuit. Of that there is no doubt. Up next we have Super 2 race winner Zach Bates, Callum.
Yes, behind the wheel of the number 14 Shaw Wines Toyota 86. The label Toyota synonymous with the Bates surname, especially in Australian rally circles. So wonderful synergies you can see here. Beautifully liveried car, and it's the newer model Toyota 86 as well. Toyota 86 Gazoo Racing spec. And wasting no time is Zach Bates to get those tyres up to temperature as quickly as possible. A little bit of a handful there, but that's all in control. That's all part of the plan. And you can also drag the brake, as you can see him doing. So they're accelerating and braking at the same time, generating some free energy displaced from the brakes and into the carcass of the tyre. So still working the wheel incredibly hard is Zach Bates, and as you can say, it's great to see some current up-and-coming Super 2 drivers out there in the field, and it really supports some standout drivers that we do get at the grassroots motorsport endurance races like the Sydney 300 as well as the Winton 300 as well. So this is going to be a highly fancied lap. We'll be keeping a keen eye on this one. Bates did a 1 minute 34.2 in qualifying. So a 34.2 is the fastest lap that this car has done so far in the qualifying session, which still puts it in Division C, and was about 3.5 seconds adrift of the overall fastest time that we saw in qualifying. So when does Zach Bates decide to release the shackles off this car and get his qualifying lap underway? Still warming up the tyre, weaving left and right deep under brakes, and you dare say he's going to start settling into the racing line and set a blistering lap time in the number 14 Toyota 86 coming onto the main straight now to commence his lap. Zach Bates behind the wheel, sharing it this weekend with Rick Bates. Cool, calm and collected. You can see the lights flashing, so some of the road car electrical ancillary still coming into effect there, thinking that the ABS is being activated on that car. That's why you see the lights flash, or the indicators flashing going into turn 1. Once again coming into turn 3, utilising all of the track. He has got that car on an absolute perfect line there. There wasn't a millimetre to spare on the outside of the apron, which has been extended in recent years, so there's a lot more room on the driver exit. Have a go at the amount of mid-corner speed he's carrying through the fast-sweeping left-hander there. He didn't scrub off too much pace. A little dab at the brakes as well, just on 2 wheels as well. He's absolutely nailed that run, just a little bit wide there, sorry. But Zach Bates still very much on track here to set a flying lap time. The car temperatures, or the tyre temperatures, you would suggest, are well and truly within their window. And of course, the team will have dialed in enough tyre pressure suitable for the session. Given that there's only one flying lap, they really don't have to take endurance distances into consideration as he comes around turn 10. Lights ablaze, runs it wide, makes the corner exit as straight as possible. What's he going to do? The benchmark for himself, what they would have dialed into the car would have been a 1 minute 34.2 as a benchmark time. Beautiful. Not too much wheel control or too much play on the wheel as he comes onto the main straight. What is the time going to be as he comes across the start-finish line? And he goes to the top. That was a 1 minute 34.4, so just 0.2 of a second adrift of his qualifying time earlier this afternoon. And we're seeing a similar trend now with both Bates and Giantini with their respective times were about 0.2 of a second off their optimal qualifying pace that we saw during the combined session in the afternoon. So that puts Zach Bates at the top of the timesheets for the time being. And here comes the defending winner now, the number 791 of Andrew Boydell. That car looks absolutely beautiful, doesn't it, Dan?
It certainly does. What a committed lap that was from Zach Bates. That's why he's a star of the future, racing for Walkinshaw and Andretti United in the Super 2 Series. But as you say, this is another car that will set a blinding time. The winner of the Winton 300 last year. Competed in the Sydney 300 as well a couple of months ago. Finished 13th in that one, but strategy just didn't quite fall their way late on. And that's why they finished where they did. But already this weekend, looking strong inside the top 10. And he's joined by the winner of the Sydney 300 in Todd Herring as his co-driver this weekend. So a great duo with the reigning Winton and reigning Sydney 300 drivers teaming up together in this Mazda MX-5. Really, really cool. The 791 machine. Grey with the green headlights at the front, the green mirrors, the green spoiler, and of course you can't forget the green stripes down the middle, of course. But yes, this will be a combination to watch in the race tomorrow. Earlier on today, set a lap time good enough for position number 6. And it was, in the end, a 1 minute 34.18 which is Division C. So we'll be looking to do the same again as he crosses the line to begin the lap and roars down into turn number 1. Ultra committed again, a little bit of a twitch between turns 1 and 2. Pushes him a little bit closer to the wall than maybe he'd have liked, but I don't think that cost too much time through that first chicane. The thing I was speaking to Todd Herring yesterday, and he said to me, this car's so much pointier than the Mazda MX-5 I'm used to. And you can see how precise and pointy it is. Everywhere, every time he turns the wheel, it darts into the apex of the corner. A real nice handling machine is this MX-5. You can see it. It'll really come into effect in this middle sector, just how pointy and turny this machine is. Maybe slightly missed the apex down there at turn number 7, but looking for a bit of a later apex to get a nice run into turn number 8 and turn number 9. A nice smooth lap this has been so far. Comes out of turn number 9. Now it's the horsepower section of the course. The stop, start, hard on the power, hard on the brakes section of the course. Hard on the brakes into 10. Back down on the power as early as you possibly can. Don't want to run 2 wheels through the grass on the outside there. He's on the power, roaring down, plucking away through the gears, down towards the penultimate corner. Back down through the gearbox once again. Really got down to turn number 11. Quickly swooped through the final corner as well. And he's going to run to the line. Where is he going to end up provisionally on this grid? The answer is 3rd. So he slots into position number 3. He's behind Bates. He's behind Giantini in the Honda Civic, and only 100th ahead of Bell in the Nissan 370Z there. But this car, for me, it's going to be a stronger race car than a qualifying car. Come the end of the 300Ks, do not, under any circumstances, rule out the 791 Mazda.
100%, Dan. That was just one lap. There's 100 tomorrow during the 300 endurance race. But great to see Boydell back out there in the car. It looks pretty much the same as it did last year after it took out victory. And to have the Sydney 300 winner alongside with Todd Herring as well must bolster your chances coming into the race tomorrow. So this is Thomas behind the wheel of the number 12 Honda Civic. So he shares this car this weekend with Pankhurst, and it's a 2.4 litre 4-cylinder underneath the bonnet. It sounds spectacular. It looks great as well. I love that striking livery. Almost has hues of, or reminds me of, the Sydney Swans, which had a fantastic victory last night against Collingwood. They did win. They won, sorry.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, sorry. So the number 12 car making its way out. So he's not actually pushing as hard as we've seen some of the other drivers in terms of working the tyres, taking it nice and easy. Obviously still going through his warm-up routine to get the car well and truly ready for this flying lap. This is, of course, the top 10 shootout for the Pitcher Partners Winton 300. And he comes out of turn 9 and weaving the car left to right to ignite, or to generate as much heat into the tyres as possible. We have suggested a couple of times already today, Dan, that with the front-wheel drive cars like you get with the Honda Civic, the front tyres are doing a lot more work than perhaps the all-wheel drive or the rear-wheel drive cars in the 40-car field. So there might be just a little bit of preservation as well, because they are using the same set of tyres as is outlined in the regulations. You have to use the same set throughout all qualifying sessions. Comes onto the main straight there. Didn't utilise as much of the apron to the left-hand side as we've seen perhaps the likes of Bates in his flying lap earlier. He's got the sunnies on as well, has Thomas behind the wheel of the Civic, given that the sun is starting to get low. And he's lost it. He's made a mistake and he's looped it. It has rotated ends on him, and he's on the pit entry to the old pits on the driver's right-hand side. That is the lap done. That is unfortunate. He'll be ruining that. That is an unfortunate start to his flying lap in the top 10 shootout. All of the anticipation and build-up for the drivers and the teams as well. They've been working since qualifying, or the combined qualifying session, to make sure that the cars are in as pristine condition as possible for a single flying lap. But the rear just stepped out on him in the Civic. Given that it is a front-wheel drive car, the rear is really extremely hard to generate as much tyre temperature in the rears as he possibly can, and we could just see the rotated ends on him, and unfortunately it's killed his lap time, so that's going to drop him to the bottom of the sheets. But having said that, it's a top 10 shootout, so the lowest he's going to go is P10.
That's right, that's exactly right. Yeah, you see in TCR Australia, don't you, how much they have to work at the wheel to get any sort of tyre temperature in those rear wheels being front wheel drive. So that was playing out in front of us there. I note that the Stannard O'Neill 944 has not come out. It was meant to come out before the Bates machine, the 86, so I'm not sure if it might be a nine car shootout here, yeah, because that car should have been out as the third car, the 944, but has not made it out there onto the racetrack. So not sure if there were mechanical issues in the earlier qualifying session. We'll get to the bottom of that overnight, but here comes the number 12 machine to cross the line in the end, a 1:47.1. No surprise there to be 12 seconds off the pace after the spin at turn number 2.
It's such a shame as well, so Andy Thomas will be ruining that mistake, but it is a long day tomorrow as well, and starting from 10th position is probably a good thing as well. So
yeah.
Unfortunate. However, there's plenty of more laps to come throughout this weekend. So here is a highly fancied entry.
Absolutely. Jimmy Tran behind the wheel. Benny Tran was originally entered in this car, but throughout the day it said J Tran, so it must be Jimmy behind the wheel in this machine. He was so close to winning this race in 2022. Penultimate lap heartbreak robbed him. He lost drive, had a bit of a throttle sensor issue, and he crawled home in position number 2 in the end. It was this car that won the race on that day and stole the victory from him. So he's looking for redemption in this car, and he roars towards turn number 3. It was a nice start to the lap, smooth but notably fast around turns 1 and 2, and the same around turns 3 and 4 as well. This car we thought might have been out of qualifying earlier. It was down in 17th. It was parked on the side of the road. Oh, that was a big twitch on turn in for the sweeper. He gathered it back up, but I think a bit of time was lost there. But yeah, we thought this car was out at one stage in qualifying, but they reset it, got it refired, and it was on song late in the session and finished right towards the pointy end of the field. Earlier on, it was a 1:32.8 that Jimmy set, and if he does the same again, he will comfortably go to the top of the timesheets in the Honda as he goes down in towards turn number 10. Early on the power, as early as you possibly can be. It's been a real smooth lap, this one. Not really ragging it, not wanting to make a mistake, but it's, what do they say? Smooth is fast, and I think this has been a good example so far. Will it beat, though, the time of Super 2 driver Zach Bates as he rounds the final corner and goes across the line? Where's he going to go? The answer is to the top, but only by 3/10, which shows just how good Zach Bates' time was in that Toyota 86. But Jimmy Tran is now at the head of the field. A 1:34 flat, 3.5 tenths clear of the Toyota 86. But we're getting now to the real sharp end of this top 10 shootout. Just a few cars to go, Callum.
Indeed, on screen right now is the BMW 328i, the two-door E36. It looks beautiful. A big fan of E36 BMWs, and at the helm is Kapitanovic behind, or driving the number 8 now. So just getting towards the end of his single warm-up lap in the Pinnacle Automotive supported car. So they've done a 1:32.8 in the combined qualifying session. They're actually quite busy in that session as well. They set 15 laps, so they obviously were out there to burn off as much fuel and build up towards a flying lap. And they are now got a single lap for their top 10 shootout. Now, it sounds like he might have missed a gear coming onto the main straight there. So slightly compromised run down the main straight. How is he going to go into turn 1? Gets the apex through turn 1. Similarly through turn 2. Doesn't that car sound spectacular as it comes past our commentary point, Dan? So the number 8 sips it in nice and early. Oh, there's a lot of understeer there, but it looks like he still held it relatively together, so hopefully it doesn't hamper him too much in overall lap time. covers the inside line going into turn 4 beautifully, as the car should. So the Pinnacle Automotive BMW coming up to complete its first sector on its single flying lap. And the fastest lap of this session was set just by Jimmy Chan. Oh, that car sideways going into turn 7. That's not going to be conducive to flying lap times. A lot of smoke coming out the front left as well, as he was trying to come through turn 7 there, but the car's back and collected as he comes around turn 9 and back down the old back straight once again. So it's been a slightly messy lap so far. He's only got 3 corners left to negotiate in this single flying lap, but what is the time going to be? It's a little bit taily coming out of turn 10 once again, but is there going to be an invoice for that? Is it going to cost him crucial tenths of a second in pursuit of pole position? He was provisionally P3 coming into this session, but where's he going to wind up? What is the time going to be? Comes onto the main straight. Very well. No signs of oversteer as he comes up to take the checkered flag. And he's gone to the top, so it looked like a messy lap, but that was a very fast lap, a 1 minute 32.8, so that's an outstanding effort there from Kapitanovic to stick it on provisional pole position. That is a great effort from the BMW driver.
I think there might have been a couple of mistakes, but he was making up for it in commitment, so he's gaining so much time. He might lose a couple of tenths on the exit or whatever, but he was gaining that much time by just throwing it in there. Full commitment.
Hats off.
Yeah, brilliant.
Hats off, because he committed hard. It looked messy, but we stand to be corrected. So he was obviously shot to the top of the timesheets with a 32.8. So a great effort there from the number 8 Pinnacle Automotive BMW 328i.
Absolutely. Here is a Lotus Exige out there on the race circuit. The 173. Townsend at the wheel for this top 10 shootout lap. This car was a bit of a quiet car in the Sydney 300, but unfortunately we never really saw how fast it was because of an early retirement. Hopefully this can make it the full distance in the Pitcher Partners Winton 300. Slightly missing apex, I think, there at turn number 1. You can hear the brakes squeaking down in towards turn number 3, and again at turn 4. So yeah, certainly on the anchors. But so far, smooth. But first, you can hear the brakes at every single corner, can't you? Even at the sweeper there. So he's putting the power down. As I say, one of the quickest cars in the Sydney 300. But we just never knew just how fast it was, because about the halfway stage, its race came to an abrupt halt, unfortunately, with mechanical dramas. Hopefully, it can do the full 300 Ks. Lotus is... They often say are unreliable, but hopefully this won't be a problem tomorrow as they exit out, or he exits out of turn number 9. Hard on the brakes again, turns it in. This Lotus so fast in the nippy, twisty stuff, but it's not too bad in a straight line either. We think this car will be a B-class car tomorrow, but one of the very front runners in that particular division as it comes around the final corner. Townsend, where will he end up? Earlier on, it was set a 132.8. Exactly what Kapitanovic did earlier, just a few moments ago. It's a 34.6, a great time. So improves on his time from the session earlier on today. So both Townsend and Kapitanovic improving. Something there. 34.6, so slots down. Sorry, in position number 4, completely misread that. Position number 4 for Townsend. I thought that said a 32.6. It's a 34.6, so down in position number 4 there, Callum.
Just one last car remaining in this top 10 shootout, and it's on screen right now. It's the number 82 BMW M4, rocking a massive rear wing, plenty of aero at the front. And it is the fastest car entering this session. So one more qualifying lap to complete qualifying and lock in the starting order for the Pitcher Partners Winton 300 grassroots endurance race tomorrow. Beautiful entry coming onto the main straight. That beautiful sounding BMW M4 charging towards turn 1. Got it nice and tidy under brakes, just the right amount of curve as well without unsettling the car. Oh, he has unsettled the car and he's in the wall. Unfortunate. He hit the curb and it's unsettled the car and forced him out to the left-hand side wall.
That was a big hit.
that was a sizable hit as well. It's hit the tyre wall, so lucky to steer clear of the concrete component of it. But that's heartbreaking stuff there for Marcus Liddell, who has been the nominated driver behind the wheel. It was looking extremely promising in the toe low number 82 BMW, but just unsettled by the curb coming onto the coming out of turn 2, and it's forced him into the driver's left-hand side wall. But he's still out there, but obviously he's probably not going to finish this lap, given the fact that it has compromised his single attempt at a top 10 shootout berth. So what are the implications of this coming into the session? He had set, or the car had set, a 1 minute 30.7, which actually had it as the only car in the Division A classification in terms of times. We were very keen to see what it was going to be able to do in top 10 shootout trim, and you can see the amount of damage that's been put on the M4 there. There's a lot of cosmetic damage up the entire left-hand side doors, the front left clippings in terms of the front bumper bar and how it connects to the car, and it looks like some of the guards underneath the front left guard as well has come out flailing as well. So you dare say he's going to park it up in the pit lane. You can see some pieces flying off the car as he carefully brings it back to the pit lane, but that is heartbreaking stuff there. Heart goes out to the DNA Autosport Air Real Estate supported number 82 BMW, the entire team. They've worked extremely hard to get to this point. Coming into the top 10 shootout, they were the fastest, they were the most fancied for pole position, and that is heartbreaking stuff. So the heart goes out to the team.
Absolutely, it does. It was quite an eventful top 10 shootout there, wasn't it? We had a spin for Thomas. Liddell clipped the wall at turn number 2. And then one car never even made the start of that shootout. So incredibly, only 7 cars really set lap times that didn't have some sort of incident. Or look at the damage to the tyre barrier down there. It looks like it's been plucked out a little bit away from the wall. So I think they might have to do a little bit of a quick repair before our next session. But Callum, we haven't actually said yet, but pole sitter Keptanovic, we really didn't think that as we were watching the lap, but pure commitment from the BMW driver made up for maybe a couple of little mistakes around the lap, and the bravery and the commitment has seen him take pole position by over a second.
Down here with Steve McDonald, who's a teacher at Wodonga TAFE. So you're running 2 cars this weekend. Tell us really about the program and who's involved and what happens here.
We run a Cert 3 in motorsports, and the students that we have, part of their course have to maintain and prepare vehicles for a competition. We look at the 300 because it gives us a really good blend of strategies so they can work out how much fuel they need to put into a car and where their pit stops have got to go. So with that, the Winton 300 and 2 cars with 20 students gives us a good ratio of students to car.
What's their sort of goals for the weekend? What are they after?
So for us, the drivers, we tell the drivers the main thing for them is to get the car to finish, because the students actually got their assessments to complete, so we're more worried about that. But in saying that too, we also say to the drivers, you know, if the car's good, race it. Just be careful, you know, not to, you know, do the Hail Marys up the inside for a pass that's not there, sort of thing. But on that part of it, we do allow Brad and Tabitha to go racing as well.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Steve, and best of luck for the weekend.
Beautiful, Dan. Thank you.
The atmosphere's electric down here. We can't be on the grid because we're running an abbreviated national championship start for the Pitcher Partners Winton 300 this year. We've got cars lining up on the front of the grid, but because it's been a bumper field this year, 39 cars making it to the grid this year. Of course, only 40 pit lane garages, so it's very packed in pit lane. I just thought we'd have a look. We've got 2 cars incredibly different in specification. Front-wheel drive, normally aspirated Honda. Rear-wheel drive, supercharged, straight 6-cylinder BMW, both on slicks. We've got a Toyota 86 running on semi-slicks in position 3. Position 4, we've got a Lotus Exige on slicks. There we go. We're just going to make our way off the grid because they're getting the formation lap underway now. What an incredible way to kick off 300 Ks of racing.
Here is the Winton Motor Raceway, the nation's action track. You can can see 12 iconic turns this first chicane. We've seen a lot of action down here, and there was certainly a lot of action there a few months ago. This was a move in the Winton 300 last year. Benny Tran was behind the wheel of that machine last year, overtaking the pole sitter in the Subaru Impreza. That's the twiddly section over at Sector 2, but turn 11 and turn number 12 are certainly action points on the track. If you don't make the move at 11, you can get the cutback and potentially make a move back up the inside at the final corner. Circuit probably is one of the oldest in the world these days. Opened way back in 1961. It's been around for a long, long time.
Throughout the Pitcher Partners Winton 300, you'll often hear us refer to divisions. But what are these, and how will they affect the race? The field contains a large variety of vehicles, all of which are split across the 5 divisions, from Division A for the fastest cars, all the way down to Division E. Unlike most endurance races, the classes in the Pitcher Partners Winton 300 are determined by lap time and not by engine capacity or power. A Division A's minimum lap time is 1 minute and 26 seconds. Division B is 1 minute and 31. C is 1 minute and 34. Division D is 1 minute 38. And E 1 minute 42. If any car records a lap time faster than the minimum set for their division on more than 2 occasions, they will be heavily penalised. No car is permitted to set a lap time faster than 1 minute 26 across the race weekend. If they do on more than 2 occasions, they'll be thrown out the race meeting entirely. All cars must complete at least 1 compulsory pit stop, and these pit stops are based on the division in which you are entered. Division A must complete 2 compulsory stops of 5 minutes. B must serve a 5-minute stop and a 2.5-minute stop, while the remaining 3 divisions only need to serve the single 5-minute stop. The compulsory pit stop time is calculated from the moment the car enters the pit lane to the time in which it exits the lane. The pit window opens when the leader commences lap 20 and ends when the leader crosses the line to complete lap number 70. Notably, a pit stop can be completed under safety car conditions, while no driver can complete more than 70 laps within the race. Failure to complete these compulsory pit stops correctly will result in a significant penalty deemed necessary by the clerk of the course. Strategy always plays a factor in determining the outcome of the Winton 300. This allows the lower divisions to claim an outright podium or potentially even the outright race victory.
Here's 100 laps ahead of us. It's going to be a fascinating race, this one. There's going to be a lot of strategy that is going to play out throughout the course of this motor race. Such a huge variety of machines just in those first 4 grid positions, really, from a BMW to a Honda Integra, a Toyota 86 and a Lotus Exige. I mean, such variety in this field this year. It's really going to be a great edition of this race that dates all the way back to 1985 as the cars head out on to the warm-up lap. I'm going to talk us through the grid. So Kapitanovic, as I say, is going to be starting the car, the pole-sitting BMW number 8 machine, ahead of the 818 of Ashton. That car has won this race before, but not in the hands of either driver today. So what can the Integra do with Ashton and Tran behind the wheel? Rick Bates will come out of 3rd. He's sharing the car with his son, Super 2 driver Zach Bates, who'll bring the car home at the end of the day. Alongside them will be the 173 combination of Aaron Weems and Glenn Townsend. Beyond that, Giantini will start out of 5th, and the Giantini combination, 2 Giantini sharing the car together. They finished 2nd just a couple of months ago in the Sydney 300. They'll be looking to go 1 better here this afternoon in the Pitcher Partners Winton 300. They'll be starting alongside the reigning champion, Andrew Boydell, who won this race last year, and then he'll be handing over to the man who won the Sydney 300 in Todd Herring. Beyond that, we've got the 101 machine, the
Nissan 370Z with Bell behind the wheel. To start with, he'll be handing over that machine to Brisby later on in the race. Beyond that, we have the Class A 82 BMW of Sewell. That's the only 3-driver combination, so Sewell, Liddell and Wilson will be sharing that one. Beyond that, we have Thomas and O'Neill. Zabatakis will start from position number 11. She shares the car with Jet Herring. That's the youngest combination from 11th. Beyond that, Burgess, Joet, Head in the Mazda MX-5. Then we've got Diffie in the 718, the Agar combination in the brand new Hyundai i product. And the list continues to go on. Williams, Martin, Ricketts, Rummela. Then we've got Hay and Phillips in the top 22. The timing continues to move in front of us. But the number 8 smoking a little bit there on the exit of turn number 11. We're about to go green. This is the moment we have been waiting for. The Pitcher Partners Winton 300 2024 edition is underway. The engines roar. They blast down towards turn number 1. A great start from Rick Bates in the 86, and he's already made the move up the inside and overtaken Ashton for second position, and already applying the pressure on the tail of the number 8 machine of Kaptanovic. A great start there from the 86 driver as the cars continue to come through. Looks to me like the vast majority of them have made it through turn 1 unscathed. Look at the gap, they're still coming over the crest there of turn number 2. They're already spread out over nearly half a lap, but look at this. The BMW has not been able to break away from the Toyota 86, which is applying the pressure through the twiddly section of the course. They swing it right, they swing it back around to the left once again. And where could Bates make the move? It's got to be in this section of the track. The BMW certainly has a straight line advantage. He'll put the right foot down, and look at that gap. You can visibly see it extending down the straight towards turn number 10. And 100 laps are ahead of us as we see the Exige, the 173 car of Townsend, the latest to demote Ashton down a lap. As I say, Ashton's done a few time trials in his time, but this is his first ever motor race, sharing the track with other vehicles. And here comes the Class A BMW, number 82, Anthony Saul, a familiar name to many, a veteran of Bathurst 6-hour competition, is moving through the field at a vast rate of knots. And that now is position number 3 as he blasts past Giantini down towards turn number 1. So Kaptanovic leads lap 1 ahead of Bates and Saul. 3 classes in the top 3 positions. That is what we expect to see a fair bit of throughout this race. I'm Dan McCarthy, and alongside me throughout this race is Callum Brannigan. An exciting start already, Callum.
A fantastic start, but a clean start. Here's Ricketts having a look up the inside there, coming into turn 3. So 1 lap down, 99 to go. Obviously, this is an endurance race, but it's grassroots endurance racing at its very best, and it looks like a 15-second penalty has been handed down on the pole sitter Kaptanovic in the BMW 328i. The E36 model has got 15 seconds looming over that car entry already, so we'll try and find out some more news about that. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, the number 82, driven by Sewell at the moment, the BMW M4, continues to scythe its way through the field, running on Pirelli slick tyres. It looks very well suited. Bit slow coming out of turn 10 though. Rick Bates passes once again. There's quite a power disparity between the Toyota 86 and the BMW. Is there already a drama with that car with just under 2 laps already completed, and he's pulling into the pit lane? Oh, this is terrible news for the 82. They had a shocking run in the top 10 shootout yesterday. They were provisional pole sitters from a combined qualifying session, and then they fenced it, unfortunately, during the single lap attempt, and it's already in the pit lane there. That's heartbreaking stuff there for the BMW.
It is absolutely heartbreaking. The sole Class A car, we expected this to waltz off into the distance. The only problem we thought, apart from mechanical, that it could have is the pit stop times. Got to complete a couple of compulsory pit stops, but I don't think this is one that was planned.
This is not what this car needed. Straight away onto the bonnet and opening that up. What a disaster for Sewell, Liddell, and of course Wilson as well. And that is disastrous. And Dave Stillwell already down there having a look to see what exactly has gone wrong there. But it's not a good start for this BMW number 82, and it's not been great with the 15-second penalty for the number 8. And there you go, Callum. Exit of the blend, exit blend. So that means going out onto the grid, has pulled over the blend line. And as a result, not allowed to do that, of course. That's quite a dangerous thing to do, and has been slapped with a 15-second penalty for merging over the blend line on the outlap to the grid. Here comes the fast-charging Lotus now, which is moving its way towards the pointy end of the field. That's position number 2 it's now in.
Yeah, Townsend there with a very emphatic move up the inside there, getting it done well and truly under brakes coming into turn 11 there. So that elevates him into position 2. You can hear the supercharger screaming on that Lotus. Rick Bates still holding his own in position 3, so there's plenty of outright race pace here. And good news for the 82 of Sewell coming back out to the pit lane. We should point out that the compulsory pit stop window opens between laps 20 and closes on lap 70. So that's definitely an unscheduled stop there. They didn't look too much underneath the hood there, so they're sending it out there for another exploratory lap, just to assess and see where the car is currently at. Here's Giantini all over the back of Rick Bates coming through the long left-hander at turn 11. Kick it to the right, and then deep under brakes as they go into turn 7. Rick Bates looks absolutely masterful. He looks very comfortable behind the wheels after taking over the reins from Zach, his son, who did a brilliant job in qualifying during the top 10 shootout yesterday to position the car where it is for the start of this race. So this is going to be a great battle as it unfolds. But at which point do these drivers decide to settle into a pace and manage the car performance? Obviously, they can go as hard as they can, but what's the cost of that? Do you take away some of the car mechanical reliability by pressing on too hard? How do you manage it? And that's why we love endurance racing, especially at this level. It opens up so many variables for grassroots racing. And just look at the variety of cars here. We've got a Falcon here. That's Grant Phillips behind the wheel, I believe, at the number 36 Falcon, defending from a Volkswagen Scirocco with a BMW in the background there as well. So as Dave Stillwell touched on earlier during his fantastic piece in the pit lane, just talking about the technical variety of these cars. And Motorsports Training Australia on the side of that Falcon, you should see the number of Wodonga TAFE students we're here this weekend. And Grant was actually saying to me, for this race, they have a 100% progression rate for students getting jobs after they complete the program. So fantastic program for students trying to get their way in there. And he's doing a great job as well. We've got a replay here. So they've got 2 MX-5s going into turn 3, and it looks like it's very wide there for the number 411 of Hay behind the wheel, and a more evasive action there from the 151. That was a bit of a hairy moment there. Did extremely well to avoid contact, so that is brilliant stuff there from the 151 MX-5, and that was Barney behind the wheel there. So a bit of a moment there at turn 4, Dan, but clean start relatively for the entire field.
The number 82 machine is back in the lane, and here it is on the screens. There's Liddell looking, opening the door. He's not too pleased with what he is looking at. It was looking so promising early yesterday. Provisional pole position, an incident in the top 10 shootout, but this was never going to be out of contention in terms of raw pace, but mechanical melodies have ruled it out of contention already in this one. There won't be any coming back from this, I don't think. They are already multiple laps down. As we jump on board with the Hyundai Veloster. At the moment, I believe it's Brad Gardner behind the wheel, and he will hand over to Tabitha Ambrose. On MX-5 has just made a mistake ahead, and 4 wheels through the grass. There it is, the Golf liveried machine, the 179 car that is, has taken a tour of the weeds, and that's Jamie Martin and Mike Kelsey behind the wheel at the moment. So that was a little bit of a costly mistake, but no damage done, fortunately. And straight away back on the road, and back setting some completing some fast corners as we look a little bit further down the field and jump on board with Charlie Viola, who heads down towards turn number 1. He's been doing a lot of laps this weekend in this machine, competing in 2-litre sports sedans as well as in the Winton 300. So he's never been to this track before. So really good that Charlie Viola has decided to set as many times as he possibly can, as many laps, get as many miles as he can ahead of this race. So he's match fit and ready to go. And match fit he certainly is. He's already done 30 laps of this track today. So yeah, he's right in the groove with his Nissan Pulsar as Gartner on the tail of the number 17 BMW.
He shared that car last year, very much the same livery, the number 1 on the side of the door of the Veloster, but he shared it last year with Jackson Rice, a pair of T82 competitors. But good to see Brad Gartner and a very famous surname on the door, as Dan was saying just before as well. Nicholas Jones has pulled into the pit lane as well during that period in the Mazda 323, so that's another unscheduled stop there for Jones, but it looks like they've made their way back out onto the track. So thankfully the Formula V regulars in Victoria back out there and circulating. Beautiful pictures being brought to us live over the shoulder of Brad Gartner as he is in hot pursuit of the car ahead, driving the number 1 Veloster. There is the number 322 Toyota 86 in hot pursuit of the Falcon ahead of him coming down the main straight. They are commencing lap 6. Here's Giantini having a good look at Rick Bates, the number 14 Toyota 86, closing the door firmly coming through turn 9, and they've got some lap traffic to contend with here. So it's one of the VW Fun Cup Australia entries, giving them plenty of room there. So there's going to be a lot of that throughout this 300-kilometre race, Dan. Obviously, there's going to be slower cars, there's going to be faster cars, and it's all about trying to manage where you place your car, and it's a lot of communication. It's highly encouraged. It's not mandatory, but it's encouraged in the supplementary regulations that the team in the pit lane have a constant communication with the drivers so they can give them the best, highest amount of preparation that they require to know exactly what's coming from behind them, but also simple things like coming into the pit lane or alarms that might be coming up on data dashes and all that sort of stuff as well. The 44, driven by O'Neill. This is the Porsche 944. I believe they elected to sit out of the top 10 shootout and qualifying just to preserve the car because they really didn't need to. Worst case scenario by getting into the top 10 shootout was that they're going to be starting 10th. So they did park the car up last night and indeed throughout the top 10 shootout, as well as the warm-up this morning, and they've wheeled it back out. And doesn't it look absolutely spectacular under the Winton sunshine? The blue 944 with a massive wing on the back of it as well. He's ranging in on this battle for position 3, so he's currently in 5th behind the wheel of that 944. But he's been steadily reeling in the battling duo of Giantini and Rick Bates. Rick Bates really doesn't have to do anything other than what he's currently doing, which is parking the car on the apex and making it as wide as possible to make the task at hand a lot harder for Giantini to try and find a way through. Kaptanovic, we should touch on him. He's currently sitting in P2. He's about 1.8 seconds ahead of this battle, coming through turn 9 now. And it's been a great start for the top 10. So this is setting up a very juicy race indeed.
Certainly is, and there's certain things we haven't yet touched upon as well, which is the divisions. So we've mentioned already about the different classes, but what does it mean in terms of how will the race play out? Well, Division A car, which you've already lost, can go no faster than 1 minute 26. So we look at B. Fastest lap time they can do is 1 minute 31 flat. C is 1 minute 34. D is 1 minute 38, and E is 1 minute 42. Now, if you, there's a Mazda off on the outside of the circuit there. I couldn't quite see which one it was. It's running very slowly though as it's rejoined the circuit, I think, but hopefully that gets back up to speed down towards turn number 1. But if you set a time faster than your minimum on more than 2 occasions, you automatically move up a class into the higher division, and that will have implications for the race. I'll come on to pit stops in just a moment as we look at a replay a little bit further down the field of some great racing in the mid-pack. But Division B have to serve an extra 2.5 minutes to classes C, D and E. So C, D and E only have to do one 5-minute stop,
and Division B has to do a 5-minute stop and a 2.5-minute stop. So that will play a factor in the race later on as it progresses. But the Class A car that I spoke about is not in the race, and I believe Dave's down there with an update.
So unfortunately, I have to visit the garage for the number 82 BMW M4 a little bit earlier in the race than I was hoping for. Anthony, you were all set to start the race. Tell us, we saw you come in, a bit of adjustment, saw it go back out. What seems to be going on under the bonnet?
Well, what seems to have happened is that we started from 8th, a few cars in front. As we've come through turn 1 and 2, there was a lot of rubber on the track, a lot of debris. A lot of stuff seems to have flicked up, like there was big chunks of rubber. And I think something's gone into the radiator, the charge cooler radiator. That's the radiator that keeps all the turbo system cool. So as soon as we lose that water, the car goes into limp mode and freaks out and doesn't want to survive. So basically, yeah, it's weekend over for us after the first corner, basically.
And it was looking so well. Now, the man who's responsible for this car existing in the first place, and someone I've had the privilege of racing alongside in some New South Wales Prod Sports races, Adrian Wilson. Adrian, I wasn't there to give you a hug last time out at Sydney. I'm offering you one now. This is never the time I want to have a chat with you.
Oh, mate, it's just disappointing. You know, everyone puts in so much effort to get here, and you know, I think we were set for a really great race. You know, we had a lot of support from the people here. Particularly all the Victorian teams and the BMW crews down here. So we just wanted to get out, show what we can do, and it's just disappointing to have something happen on the first lap with rubble coming through the front of your grille. I mean, it's not a great way to end a race, so, you know.
It is one of the unfortunate things that can happen in a race. Of course, this car's a highly developed piece of machinery. We've seen the F80, F82 platform be very successful in things like the Australian Production Car Series, the Bathurst 6 Hour. Of course, there's a GT4 version of the car. Tell us, what's next on the technological upgrade list for this car? Are we going to see it with with some sort of quantum drive thing that makes it even faster, or we got just work on maybe a bit of a radiator screening?
I think we'll put a new charge cool radiator in there and send it back out again. That's all she really needs. She's a fast car, she's very capable, and to have something like that happen to you, it's pretty disappointing.
Back to you in central commentary. Hopefully we don't have to visit any more teams anytime soon.
Thank you, Dave, down there in the pit lane, having the conversation nobody wants to, and a massive thank you to Adrian Wilson for lending his time. So here is a replay. That's Rick Bates getting a little bit rally on the right-hand side. He's used to that, keeping it together, so you can see just how hard they are pressing on. So you can clearly see what the 14 strategy is for Zach and Rick Bates. It's press on as hard as you can. He's exploring as much track as he possibly can, well and truly within the limits. The Shore Wines 14, Toyota 86 coming under fire now from Giantini. Completely different cars in terms of technical setup. The Civic is front-wheel drive, the 2.4-litre Honda engine. Here comes Jones emerging from the pit lane, so he's actually made 2 trips to the pits now in the number 51 Mazda 323 as he comes out of the pit lane once again. So there are some issues plaguing that car so far in this race. We are on lap 11, or the leader has commenced lap 11, and it doesn't sound very good as it comes through turn 3. Here is the number 101 of Bell behind the wheel. So he's qualified this car and he's elected to start it as well. And he's had a smashed windscreen on the MX-5 following behind. So that's head behind the wheel of the 123 entry. And that's a sizable golf ball sized crack in the windscreen. So it won't distract you too much. You're more or less looking through it as you're concentrating at the task at hand, which is driving. Meanwhile, the number 36 Falcon Ute has pulled into the pit lane. Now, we are technically outside of the pit window as well, so this is very much unscheduled. We did see it smoking earlier in the warm-up. That's was a result of a failed power steering pump, or line, I should say, during qualifying. That was causing the smoke yesterday. When I sent it out during the warm-up this morning, there was a bit of residual oil coming into the radiator, and once that got hot, it started creating some smoke there. Here we go, Giantini and Rick Bates have switched positions coming on, just before they came in onto the main straight, dragging along side by side, coming in down the main straight. So there is indeed Giantini still ahead of Rick Bates
Number 35 Mazda MX-5 is in the lane now as well, so it's a bit of a rate of attrition all of a sudden. That's the Philip Alexander and Ronin Lindmayer machine, so that's not good news. There's 2 cars within that organisation, but that is a Mazda MX-5 that is not running too healthy, so that's the 4th car in the lane before the compulsory pit stop window opens at the end of lap 20. So just to reiterate, you have to do your stops between laps 20 and 70, so you can pit before then, but it will not count as a compulsory pit stop. Or as the BMW looks up the inside there, and all the Giantini machine nearly caught out by that rear-ended Joette in the 154 BMW. So there's been a bit of changing at the pointy end. We haven't even really pointed out the fact that the 173 Lotus is now leading the race ahead of the Kaptanovich BMW. 3rd position, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th are all in the line that we can see on the screen at the moment. It's the 44 Porsche from the 154 BMW. Giantini machine out there on the circuit. Then we got Bates, Burgess in the Evo, and there is Ashton just behind the Fun Cup car, and the reigning race winners in the 791 Mazda MX-5 sit nicely, as they did in the opening stint last year, in positions inside the top 10. They're in 9th as here comes Bates up the inside of Giantini. Nice, optimistic and well-judged move using the traffic to great effect up the inside at turn 7 and going all the way around the outside at 8, and might even get the BMW at the inside of 9 with nearly 3 wide, 2 wide a little bit further back. Awesome racing. Bates has made 2 places, and now he's putting a lap on fellow 86 driver, the number 86. Not quite sure who's behind the wheel of that machine at the moment, but it's shared between Heiniger and Dean Chapman. But this is what we expected in the Winton 300 this year. Traffic to play a major factor, and we are seeing it play out in front of our very eyes at the moment. But the race leader, Townsend, in the Lotus 6. Oh, again, the BMW slow out of 11. But Townsend in the 173 Lotus is extending the margin. It's out to 5 seconds now. Remember, Kaptanovich, not only does he have to serve a 5-minute stop and a 2.5-minute stop, but he's got to add 15 more seconds to one of those stops as well. So that will play a factor. It could lose him some crucial track position later on. As up the inside comes Lee Burgess, who tried to move there but couldn't quite get through. Dave, it's been a rate of attrition so far. I believe you're down there in the lane with another update.
I am, Dan. Thanks for the throw. Look, we know it's always a learning experience for the Wodonga TAFE team here. They've got 2 cars in the race. Unfortunately, we did see the number 36 Falcon Ute make its way into the pit lane earlier. Had a chance to grab a chat with Grant, the driver behind the wheel. He's complaining of the clutch giving him a little bit of a drama. The clutch situation on some of the Tremec gearboxes in the Ford modular motors can sometimes be a little bit tricky on the throw-out bearing. So that's something they'll have to manage throughout the race. They might have to start lift shifting and nursing the clutch to get them home. Possibly a little bit of a loose exhaust. Now, we were set to do an interview in the lane, but we had to pan away very quickly, because also in the lane, if we pan across to our left, the number 718 BMW M3 is also in the lane. This is quite early. They are doing a fuel stop, but this, of course, is outside the compulsory pit stop window. The stop does have to take a minimum of 2.5 minutes from pit entry to pit exit, but this will not count against their compulsory pit stop time. Once that team's finished up with that stop, we'll go and have a chat and figure out what seems to be the issue with that car at this early point in the race.
Thanks for the update, Dave. Always on the news. He's hunting it, he's shaking trees, and he's giving us all of the updates. Wonderful work there from down in the pit lane. This is an enthralling battle here. So Damon Ashton behind the wheel of the 818 Honda Integra displaces Giantini, the number 13 Honda Civic, just behind. Look behind him. They're a defending race entry. That's the 718 Spy Optic Mazda MX-5. Andrew Boydell behind the wheel at the moment. So it's been a very spirited start and a very energised battle for the top 10 positions, with O'Neill very much a quiet achiever in the number 44 944. He's made his way up into position 3, still with Rick Bates at the front of this train, sitting in position 4. Meanwhile, the 154 of Jowett, you can see he's got his hands full as a look up the inside here from the Boydell Mazda. He's still got the outside line, and he's just going to drive around. We should point out that that car is running on slick tyres, so it's got plenty of mechanical grip, and he's got Damon Ashton just ahead of him. So this is promising to be a spectacular race, Dan, if it continues at the pace that we're seeing at the moment. Currently running in a 1 minute 33s at the pointy end of the field, all the way through to a 1 minute 34 within the top 10. So consistent lap times in terms of field spread from P1 to P10. And we've still got Bell knocking on the door in 10th position as well. So here you can see one of the Fun Cup Australia VWs giving them plenty of room as the much faster cars come charging through. And Aaron Wimes coming up on our screens there with the fastest lap of the race with 133.5. Now he's not featuring within the top 10 battle. That's actually behind the wheel of the 7173. Apologies. So he is absolutely nailing it in the lead of the race. And looking over the shoulder now, these live onboard pictures brought to us by Blendline TV, just so you can get up close and personal and experience what it's like behind the wheel of one of these cars with the setting sun, and it's only going to get worse from this point in.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of lights.
Yes, as you say, yes. I know exactly what you meant. Yeah, the sun will be in the eyes of the drivers quite prominently in turns 12 and turns 10 in particular late in this race. As up the inside goes Boydell on the inside of Ashton, and makes it stick there at turn number 7. Nice move there, really made his feelings known, showed the nose, and he had to leave some space, did Ashton. And a little tail happy moment there for Boydell on the exit of the turn as well. So they head down to turn number 10. 791 doesn't quite have the straight line poke of some of its class runners out there on the circuit, its fellow Class C and Class B cars as well, but it certainly handles like a dream. And we're seeing that out there on the circuit at the moment. But our race leader continues to extend the margin out front. Wayne's behind the wheel of the 173 from Kaptanovich, as Burgess has moved his way up into position 4 ahead of Bates. Now Lee Burgess and Jerry Burgess just quietly go about their business due to the father and son combination. It worked really well for them last year. Despite only having third gear for the last third of the race, they finished in a legitimate outright third position. It's a great performance from them. And they did a similar thing at the Sydney 300 as well a few months ago. Things just didn't quite work out their way with strategy, and they finished just outside of the top 10. But don't rule out the Burgesses from not only a class podium, but potentially an outright podium as well. Out there on the race circuit, we're seeing a couple of different cars out there further back down the field. The 322 Toyota 86 and the Ford Falcon as well. At the moment, we've got two Class B cars leading the way, Townsend and Kaptanovich. O'Neill in the Porsche 944 is the leader in Class C, ahead of Burgess and Bates, so they are 3, 4 and 5 on the road. The leader in D is the Mick Ricketts and Josh Haynes Nissan Pulsar, just outside of the top 10. And I'm looking further down for the leader in Class E at the moment. There's not one inside of the top 20 that I can see. There it is, Charlie Viola in 23rd position, the leader in Class E at this point in time. So there's lots of little battles within the big battle as they all try and win outright in the Pitcher Partners Winton 300, but there is class trophies on the line in all 5 divisions.
So in the top 10, we have 3 cars in Class B, 7 cars in Class C. What does that mean? Class B cars have to stop, compulsory pit stops for 2.5 minutes longer than the Class C cars. At the moment, that puts O'Neill in the number 44 Porsche 944 in a plum position because they only have to stop once for 5 minutes during this race. Obviously, there are other considerations. There could be things with tyres, there could be things with fuel usage. There are a lot of variables with that, but what it means on paper is that the Class B cars are guaranteed to stop for at least 2.5 minutes longer than their fellow combatants in Class C. We've got one Class A car remaining in this race, I believe, which is the Agar Hyundai i30. And there's a few issues with that car. I won't say they're issues, but there have been some troubles with that car, usually around the ECU in particular. They had a race ECU ready for that car, which they put into the i30 at the start of the weekend, but it's been causing them a few issues and causing booster spikes, which has caused the car to fall into limp-only mode. What they've done is they've actually put the road-going ECU in the car. Obviously, it's the safest option, but there are a couple of permutations and a couple of things that could happen on paper with that Agar car as this race unfolds, but we'll touch on that during later on in the race. Here's the 791 on screen, followed by Giantini, and there's Charlie Viola in the Pitcher Partners N15 Pulsar coming on to the straight. It's big thanks to Pitcher Partners for throwing their support behind grassroots endurance racing. This is a fantastic display. 39 cars starting this race. It's great to see the competitors voting with their feet and coming out and throwing their support behind this race. Obviously, the event organisers had to cap it at 40. Such was the demand for entries to come in to compete in the 2024 edition of the Pitcher Partners Winton 300. And some more stats for you. We've had 6 cars so far facing mechanical issues in this race, which have had to tour through the pit lane in a non-compulsory pit stop fashion. Up the inside there, Damon Ashton. Did they come together there at turn 7? Ashton up the inside of the 154 BMW of Jowett, and that allows Boydell now to get a sniff up the inside in the 791 MX-5 there. That was getting extremely close there as they negotiate turns 7, 8 and 9, but the headline of it all is Ashton comes out ahead, making it up the inside of the Jowett BMW.
Now Boydell followed through as well, so the 791 moves up into position number 7. That was nicely done. Callum, importantly, the leader has started lap number 20. That means the compulsory pit stop window is open, everybody. You can come and serve your compulsory pit stop or stops in this race. And Dave, I believe you're down there in the lane with an update.
1-2 test.
I don't think he was quite ready for us there, but that's all right. We'll continue to watch the racing action there. The BMW and the Gentini machine, as well as Boyd, will continue to fight away there, but there is the race leader, putting the Class A car down a lap around the turn number 11 and 12 sequence. Dave, I believe you're ready for us now.
So down here in the Wodonga TAFE garage, not this time investigating why there's a car that's a little bit worse for wear. Thought I'd check in with a fellow third-generation racer. It's none other than Tasmania's own Tabitha Ambrose. Tabitha, welcome to Winton.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, you've done plenty of laps here this weekend at VMRC Round 3. You've put in a lot of laps in an XL, not just here at Winton, but around the country. Tell us about your program.
Yeah, so we run a pretty tight ship at Marcus Ambrose Motorsport. Just trying to get as much racing as we can in this year, and yeah.
What races?
I did.
And of course, so you figured upgrade from a Hyundai XL to a Hyundai Veloster with the great team here at Wodonga TAFE.
Yep, what an upgrade it is too.
Now, we were talking before the interview, this is all part of a program to get you as much experience as possible on the circuits of the mainland. You've only got 2 circuits to choose from in Tasmania. What's your favourite, Baskerville or Symmons Plains?
Ooh, I quite like Baskerville just because it's a bit more difficult and challenging, and it's a bit easier on the brakes.
Now, what's next for Tabitha Ambrose under the Marcus Ambrose Motorsport stable? What's next in your program? We're going touring cars, sports cars, open wheelers. What's next for Tabitha Ambrose?
Well, I think we're going to follow through with a bit of Formula Ford racing. Maybe a couple races before the end of the year.
That's fantastic. Of course, the Victorian State Race Series has got an incredibly competitive Formula Ford series. Now, are you going Spectrum or Mygale, or who's going to be looking after the car for you?
Definitely the Spectrum. Mike's going to be looking after the car for us.
Fantastic. Well, there was someone in your family who was half decent in a Formula Ford and went on to do a couple of amazing things. Now, is he fairly hands-on on these weekends, or is he fairly hands-off in these weekends?
No, he's definitely hands-on. I love having him here. He's on my radios and just a little bit of a pep talk, and he's great, yeah.
You know, you are a driver. Occasionally you can experience a radio failure, or the radio plug just doesn't quite make it in.
Yeah, maybe.
So talk us through the strategy for this event. So this is a 300k race for the cars that are running right at the front. In a class, you're running in Division D or Division E today?
Division D.
Yeah, so you've got that minimum lap time you can't go faster than. You'll probably do somewhere in the vicinity of 85 to 95 laps, depending upon how many safety cars we get. Is the car going to do it on one fuel stop?
We're hoping that the car's going to do it on one fuel stop. However, there's 15 laps that are kind of unaccounted for at the end of the race. So maybe with some yellows we might make it, but otherwise we're going to have to do a quick fuel up before the end of the race.
Well, you might have to get Dad on the radio and give you some of those fuel mileage saving tips. He would have had his crew chief screaming at him down the radio back when he's doing some of those 500-mile races on the super speedways. We wish you all the best. We look forward to a really great result for you in the number 1 Hyundai.
Yep, thank you.
Back to you guys.
Thanks very much, Dave. Great chat down there with Tabitha Ambrose, and we were riding on board throughout that as well with her co-driver, Brad Gartner, who's going around the outside. You can see the Mazda pointing through the right window, saying, "Overtake me around the outside," and that's exactly what he did down there at the sweeper. They are currently in 22nd position and doing quite nicely in the D class at the moment. Just I say that the lights have gone out, the front headlights are flashing. Is there some sort of a mechanical issue going on with this car? It looks like it's pulling over to the side. It's crawling. This car is absolutely crawling at the moment. It's gone into some sort of limp home mode, and Brad's just trying to find any sort of gear out there on the race circuit at the moment. I think he's lost all drive, you know, Callum, and he's coming to a stop. This is really bad. You can see the screen in the middle of the Veloster coming on, going off, coming on and going off again. He's pulling over to the side to try and let the MX-5 through, but this is disastrous at this stage of the race. The good news is that the compulsory pit stop window's open. This can give them 5 minutes to try and fix that problem, and that means they won't lose the time. Oh, lights out again. It's died once again. We're going to try a bit of a reset, a Control-Alt-Delete, and get it backfired, which I believe he is doing now. You can see again the lights flashing, and we seem to have refound a gear. This is some sort of an electrical gremlin, I believe, which is reasonably common with these modern-day production cars when they're pushed hard in race mode. But what a disaster for the number 1 car. We've already seen the 36 car in the lane, and it looks like the number 1 has also got problems. In is the 154 BMW. This is the first compulsory pit stop that we've seen with driver changes, potentially tyre changes as well. This, Callum, is our first scheduled stop of the race.
Indeed it is, and reveals what their strategy is. So it looks like, obviously we've got a driver change going on here. So Jowett steps out of the vehicle, and into the 154 steps Ken Christie. So Bob Jowett has stepped out of the car, and it's going to be Christie who looks like he's probably going to do the bulk of the work. There isn't necessarily a minimum time for the drivers to spend in there, but obviously the 20 lap number indicates when they can come in and do this under compulsory pit stop circumstances. It's looking all very much under control, and written into the regulations, the drivers are allowed to assist one another, or they can appoint someone to give them a hand from the team as well. Here's the number 1 entry. It is pulled into the pit lane. The Hyundai Veloster struck with mechanical issues, unfortunately. This is the race leader on screen right now with the number 173 Lotus Exige. It sounds absolutely amazing, and it's a well-proportioned, beautifully balanced race car. Looks very svelte coming onto the main straight, lapping Charlie Viola Nissan Pulsar. So we can see frantic work here from the Motorsports Training Australia team. They've plugged in a tablet device to try and diagnose the issues with the Hyundai Veloster. Obviously, Control-Alt-Delete, trying to turn the car off and on again, has not resulted in the car being back out on the circuit. Meanwhile, back on track here is Rick Bates behind the wheel of the number 14. Getting up the inside of the number 17 to relegate that car back a lap as they're continuing to filter their way through the slower cars that they are quickly approaching. And just like that, Dan, 25 laps have been completed. We're already a quarter race distance. That's gone extremely fast, and we've got so much more to come your way.
Well, this is part of the race now where strategy is going to play out. This is the intriguing part of the race from our side. We know that the Class B cars are faster than the C cars. That's obvious, and they have pulled quite a margin. But this is where all the strategy comes into play. The top D-Class car remains Ricketts and Josh Haynes in the Nissan Pulsar. And yeah, they're just outside skill of the top 10 positions. So don't count them out of contention either. Remember, the Class B cars, we'll list them within the top 10 for you once again. The 173 of Townsend, the 8 of Kaptanovich. We've also got the 1-8 of Ashton and Tran, and the number 1-2-3, which has moved inside the top 10 now into 9th position. That also has to serve an extra 2.5 minutes. All Class B cars have to serve an extra 2.5 minute compulsory pit stop compared to the other cars. And at this rate, those Class B cars of Townsend and Kaptanovich are not pulling out a big enough margin in this race. Yes, okay, they've pulled out, in Townsend's case, a 38-second lead over the Class C cars, but that's not enough at this stage of the race. Nowhere near, in fact. They need to be doing more than that. They need a safety car, really, at this stage of the race, you'd say, to bring themselves back into contention, obviously, despite currently leading the race.
Absolutely, Dan. Daniel Tierney behind the wheel of the 322 Toyota 86. Having a bit of a battle on his hands, just trying to allow the drivers through without washing off too much speed. Obviously, they're having to contend with lapped traffic or the faster cars coming from behind, but you can't compromise your race too much. You really want to press on as hard as you can. Obviously, the faster you go, the faster you can finish this race without overstating it too much. Brad Gartner still in the pit lane at this stage, but the Scirocco there, the number 84 car, also trying to follow the car of Gene Teeny through. Here's the number 13 on screen. Currently showing in position 8, and they are driving to a number at the moment, but they were featuring as high as 3rd earlier in this race with Andrew Boydell, the defending winner, currently sitting in position 7. Zavatakis knocking on the door of the top 10 in position 11 behind the wheel of the Class C Mazda MX-5, doing a splendid job this weekend. And we've got another car in pit lane. Now, is this a standard pit stop? It looks fairly in order, actually. So it looks like we've got a refueling scenario. You can see there they've actually got a hand pump to pump the petrol into the car, and following the regulations, they have to ensure that the car has been grounded. So they've actually got an earth wire to ground the car to ensure there aren't any surprises during the refueling process. Here's the 154, and it's moving slowly. It's coming out of turn 9, and it is not on song. The silver BMW is pulled over to the driver's left-hand side. Is that another car that's been affected by electrical gremlins after making its pit stop? So Jowett did start the race. Christie's behind the wheel at the moment of the BM Performance Centre BMW M3 four-door variants that we see, and we've also got the M4 variant out there at the moment, but the car doesn't look particularly quick at the moment, Dan, so I dare say there might be an issue with it. And is it going to peel into the pit lane? No, he's going to keep going there, so not too sure what's happening with that car. Running a little bit wide there, coming onto the main straight as well.
Certainly not running on
it doesn't
song,
sound on song, does it?
No, that there is no doubt. He's pulled over to the left-hand side of the circuit as well. So trying to stay out of harm's way of the other competitors. Hopefully that issue will sort itself out. We see that with some of these issues with the production cars, the electrical glitches, that they sort of either reset by themselves or they pull over, do a Control-Alt-Delete, and then they are fine. So hopefully it's a temporary problem. If not, I'm sure we'll see that car in the lane in the near future. This is the car that's been plucking away and moving through the field quite nicely. It's the 1-2-3 Mazda MX-5. Don't worry, the windscreen wasn't smashed in the race, but the inside of the Scirocco, it's very tight, and that's, as we say,
lap traffic is going to be a constant factor. Every single lap of this 100-lap race from here on in, you'll be constantly negotiating traffic, left, right, trying to find the fastest gap. Oh, no! The number 44 from third position, and our Class C leader has come to a halt on the exit of turn number 9. It was running so strongly, it was running so well, but it is going to plummet down the order here. In fact, it's about to go a lap down. Look for the Lotus at the bottom of the screen. It's about to be lapped around the Winton Motor Raceway. This is an absolute disaster for this machine. After stepping out of the top 10 shootout, not taking part in the warm-up, preserving the car, it clearly hasn't worked as well as they'd initially planned, because it has come to a stop on the infield just a quarter of the way through this race. The attrition continues to rise. So Kaptanovic puts a lap on Kiara Zabatakis, the youngest driver in this race. Dave, I believe you got another update for us.
So a little bit of an update from down here in the lane. We did see earlier one of the BM Performance Centre, the 718 BMW M3. That was a scheduled stop. It only had to be 2.5 minutes. They're running with a very skeleton crew, so they've got one team of people to look after both of the F80 M3s that are working out of that garage. So it wasn't unscheduled, just obviously outside of the CPS window, so they'll have to stop again. They just need to make sure they put enough fuel in it. Down here in Garage 2, we've got the 453 Commodore. They're actually changing from Yokohama semi-slicks to Dunlop semi-slicks. So this actually takes our number of tyre supplies in the event from 10 to 11. They're changing to a harder compound. They're changing to a harder compound to make sure they can make it to the end of the race. Put a little bit of fuel in the back with a churn and sorted it out and took care of their compulsory pit stop. The number 1 Hyundai Veloster, turns out it was having a limp mode issue. They've reset it with a scan tool. They filled it full of fuel in case it was a fuel level sender issue. But of course, it's always a learning experience for the team from the Motorsport TAFE in Wodonga. Back to you in Central Commentary.
Thank you, Dave, down there in the pit lane. As he said, right on screen, the Hyundai Veloster, the number 1 car. Gardner behind the wheel, back out on track with its team, fellow stablemate just ahead, the Falcon. These cars are completely different, but they're being looked after by the same team this weekend. With the limp home issue, thankfully they're able to resolve it in the Hyundai. And the Agar Hyundai and sedan also had a similar issue earlier this weekend, or was it a couple of weeks ago during a testing session, and they were getting their car falling into limp mode as well. But as it turns out, it was a steering angle sensor that was throwing the car and causing those calamities. So a lot of electronics go into the modern day cars, and as soon as you throw a whiff of modern day racing electronics, it can cause these sorts of dramas, as we do see in production car endurance racing. Here's Rick Bates, currently in position 5. Boydell, defending winner. The 791 MX-5, Spy Optics Mazda MX-5 just behind. In position 6, neither have pitted, and they're both in Class C at the moment. And they're currently positions 2 and 3, respectively, in Class C. Townsend's leading the way outright in Class B, with Kaptanovic also in Class B behind him. Jerry Burgess, quiet achiever so far in this race, in the number 33 Mitsubishi Evo, leading Class C, but he's up in 3rd position overall, has been quietly chipping away in the background as we commence lap 30. So Jerry Burgess doing a fantastic job before he hands over the car to Lee Burgess later on in this race. Great racing here from Rick Bates. He has absolutely nailed that car in this opening stanza of the race, as we can see the 44 of O'Neill. That is a sad sight. It's so unfortunate. They were looking extremely strong in Class C, sitting in 3rd position until that mechanical issue put them out of the race. The number 86 now stepping aside, allowing the Toyota 86 of Rick Bates through, as well as Andrew Boydell. G&T still looming in the background as well. I hazard a guess that the Honda Civic, driven by G&T, they're just driving to a number at the moment. They're just waiting patiently. We've still got 70 laps remaining in this race after all. Here is the York car on screen now, the number 33 Evo. Just behind there is Damon Ashton in the Honda Integra. Last year we saw that Class B Honda Integra leading away for a majority of the race before a coil pack issue forced them into the pit lane and making the team work a little bit extra to try and solve that mechanical gremlin before they could send it back out there. So that's the BY Performance entry, Honda Integra, and the York Developments Mitsubishi Evo looking absolutely pristine condition as he comes through to turn 3. So Jerry Burgess doing a splendid job. Currently in the 1:36s, and that's actually quicker than the outright pace of the 1:73 Lotus Exige, currently leading the way at the moment. So Jerry Burgess and Lee Burgess sharing the number 33. Because they're in Class C, they've actually got 2.5 minutes that they're going to save in the pit lane as well. So be curious to see how far into this race they can get on a full tank of fuel. But also, crucially, they actually have to change the front right tyre on that Evo in the Sydney 300 earlier this year. Such was the pace of the race, and the wear and tear on that tyre forced them to come into the pit lane as well. So that's a consideration as well. Given at the current race pace, Jerry Burgess is very quick out there at the moment. But is it too hard on the car? We're only going to find out as this race continues to unfold.
Yeah, absolutely, we will. As up the inside goes Ashton on one of the many Mazda MX-5s in this motor race. Charlie Viola pulls over to the left-hand side of the circuit, the preferred racing line, and swings it into the corner. But yes, as I say, many Mazda MX-5s in this race, the most winning car in the Winton 300 after winning last year. It's now won on 3 occasions as an MX-5. So yeah, a very, very successful car, and very popular in both of the 300-kilometre races. And Viola there turning it into turn number 1. Saw Burgess coming through and just left a little bit of racing room. And you can see in the middle mirror there the Integra blasting by as well. This is a brilliant shot of just how busy things are when you're a Class D or E runner, and these B-class cars are flying past you. It's a fascinating watch. You can watch this all day. Brilliant images supplied to us by Blendline TV. Viola ragging it through the sweeper. Quite a tricky corner, that one. You really want to double apex it. Clip the first apex, drift out wide, and then come back in and touch the second apex of the corner. That's the best line to take through there. It's a slow start for Ashton in the 818, but it's slowly moving forwards as well, and it's caught up to the tail of Burgess. This is the Hyundai N, the Lendrive sponsored machine. We spoke a bit about this earlier on, but in the warm-up, but we believe that this machine has been suffering with electrical issues. Well, it has, and they're running it in more of a road mode than what they would prefer, but they expect to perform at least 2 stops. It's using quite a lot of fuel, and 2 stops is the likely strategy for this machine in this race. And this is the first as it heads back out there on the race circuit, moving quite slowly. Don't want to head out too quickly, waiting for that 5 minutes to elapse, which it now has, and then it'll cross the line. There it is, a 5 minute, just over 5 minute stop, and that's how it's done. You get a huge penalty if you don't serve the 5 minutes. Oh, that was awkward on the exit. Pulled hard left to avoid the Fun Cup car there. That was a complete misunderstanding, and I'm not sure if there's a problem with that Hyundai. The hazards are flashing. It looked really slow coming out of the lane, so I'm not sure about you, Callum, but I think that might be a bit more substantial than we first thought.
Yeah, not too sure what's going on with the 787 Hyundai i30N sedan. We were touching on it before that it was having some mechanical or electrical issues, and it's running a road spec ECU at the moment because that's all they could do to get the car running. As a result, it's gone from 24 PSI in terms of boost down to 15. Here is another look at the 787 trying to rejoin there. Has he just outbraked himself? And great presence of mind from all the drivers around him, which included Rick Bates and Andrew Boydell, as well as Gene Tenney as well, to steer around and make sure that they avoid and had to take evasive action around the car of Agar. It just didn't seem to arrest any speed. couldn't slow down. I thought there might have been a puncture initially, but sitting in pit lane for 5 minutes is a long time as well. So has there been any knock-on effects? Has there been some heat soak with the hot brakes around the tyre? We're not too sure yet. So either way, the car's had a trip through the grass. There's a little bit of cosmetic damage on the front bumper bar of the Hyundai N, and luckily Agar is able to continue. Dave Stillwell down in the pit lane.
Thank you, guys. So it's a tale of two very different stories in garages 5 and 6. We had the 787 who've bumped themselves up from Division B to Division A. They need to run at least 2 pit stops just purely on fuel range. You were describing the issues they're having with the road car ECU. It actually does a relearning process every time it senses that the fuel level's gone up in the standard fuel tank, trying to relearn what level of octane fuel is in the car. So it dials the boost specification back to about 15 PSI. Once it's had a chance to learn how much fuel's in the car, it cranks it back up to 20. Once they have their tuning sorted out, they'll crank it up to about 22, 23 PSI boost. Something that experienced a little bit too much pressure, although this time in the cooling system, was the number 17 BMW from Pinnacle Automotive. Unfortunately, one of the necks on the production BMW radiator is just sheared straight off the radiator. One of those things that you really can't test for and you can't possibly see. Unfortunately, the lifetime of that component's been shortened, and that vehicle will be taking no further part in the event.
Really has been attritional, hasn't it, so far in this motor race? We've lost several of the front runners and quite a few BMWs, so that's another one down there in the lane that was behind Dave, but lots and lots of updates coming to us from our man on the ground, our equivalent of Ted Kravitz down there in the lane. Dave Stillwell doing a fantastic job. As always, the 53 Mazda MX-5 out there on the racetrack and circulating quite well in the raceaway machine. I believe it was a sister car that came into the lane quite early on, the number 36 on lap number 11. That had a mechanical problem, but this one is running nicely at this point in time. Touch wood, it continues that way, sitting in 22nd position at the moment, and is yet, I believe, the leading E Division car. I'm just going to see his time runs through. No, third in Division E. Parianastakis in the 144 Nissan Pulsar is now leading that particular class. But of course, we're in that pit stop sequence now where it's not always that clear who is leading. We've got to keep an eye on whether stops have been made. So, Charlie Viola actually is the leader in Class E in 18th, and he is yet to stop. So it's very, very tight in Class E. From 18th down, there's a lot of E-Class competitors, and they are all very close on the racetrack, as well as the number 12 car has come in the lane. Adam Thompson and Andy Thomas in their Honda Civic, and that's been running pretty well in and around the top 10 this weekend, as the number 13 comes up the inside of Rick Bates. So Giantini, nice pass there down into turn 11. Bates trying to hold it around the outside, and Boydell might buy into this as well. So these three fighting for 5th, 6th and 7th on the racetrack. This is for position, and they are all in Class C as well. So not only outright, but also Class Honours as well. Giantini holding it around the outside at 1, makes it stick up the inside at 2, squeezing Bates out wide, and that allows the Mazda MX-5 of Boydell up the inside and takes the place. You may have seen the indicator, the hazard lights flashing on that Toyota 86. Don't be alarmed by that. That is simply telling us that the ABS is being fully utilised in that Toyota 86 machine, as Townsend, our race leader, has entered the lane at the end of lap number 36 of this motor race. Townsend in the lane in the Lotus Exige, the first of 2 stops for the Lotus, as Boydell up the inside now, making nice progress at the moment, is the defending race winner, and that is now up to 5th position, 2 places in the space of half a lap for the 791. It's coming on strong late in this stint. We spoke about the potential for front-wheel drive cars to struggle around this technical Winton circuit. Are we already seeing that playing a factor? I wouldn't think so at this point, but it's really good to see the defending champions coming on strong at the midway stage of this race. We're already over 1/3 race distance. It's quite hard to believe, and we see them come across the line. So it is now the number 791 that sits in 4th, because it has just taken a place on the 173 Lotus that is in the lane. So been in the lane now for 1.5 minutes. So our new race leader is Kaptanovic out the front of the field. The 2B class cars pulled around about a 1 minute margin. You can see on the screen Kaptanovic 58 seconds ahead of Burgess, and as well I note that Townsend Lotus was a further few seconds down the road as well. So that was over a minute advantage over the Class C competition. But remember, they do have 2.5 extra minutes in the lane. We can see that the Porsche 944 has been dragged back into the pits, and at the back of the shot we can see the Lotus driver change. So that is quite important. The first of the 2 stops, and the driver change has already been made for the Townsend car. So 173, Townsend jumping out and Wames jumping in, and there is the very disappointed Porsche 944 driver. Dave, you're down there, mate, with him. Tell us what's happened.
Thanks, guys. I am down here with the driver of the unfortunately waylaid number 44, Porsche 944 for Stannard Marine. The crew tells me that you were fairly smart and onto it with a low oil pressure warning. Did you get any indications at all during the weekend this could have been a thing?
No, not really. We've been running pretty reliably, and I think it was just the heat and the sustained Gs for such a long period of time. Probably just thinned out the oil a bit more than we expected. So I didn't want to make a mess all over the track, and it's the kind of thing we can't really come back from, unfortunately. So pretty happy with how the car performed and how the pace we had, but yeah, just an unfortunate end.
Well, the good thing is that you were smart enough to park the car in a place that means we didn't have to debut with the Hyundai i30N safety car. So you have the thanks of not only myself and the TV crew, but all of your fellow competitors. Well done.
No worries. Thanks very much.
Commiserations. We hope to catch you back next year at the next edition of the Winton 300.
No worries. We'll be back. Thanks very much.
Back to you guys.
Thank you, Dave Stilwell, down there in the pit lane, having a frank conversation with a despondent O'Neill. An unfortunate way to exit the race, but as he pointed out, very pragmatically pulling the car aside not to cause any damage to the circuit and reducing the chance of a safety car. So we're still running under green flag conditions. Brilliant racing up and down the field, and we're starting to get a mix-up as well in terms of the running order. During that interview, Rick Bates pulled into the pit lane behind the wheel of the number 14 Toyota 86. So that is the first compulsory stop. Could be the only compulsory stop, given that it is in Division C, but we'll have to wait and see what the fuel consumption numbers and the tyre wear indeed looks like on that Toyota 86. But nonetheless, it's in the pits now for its compulsory 5-minute pit stop. Meanwhile, the former race leader, Townsend, is still in, the 173 Lotus Exige is still in the pit lane, and it's getting pretty close towards the end of its first 5-minute stop. 4 minutes and 50 seconds to be precise, so it's about to come back out. And during the shuffled order, during the pit stop sequence with that car parked up, it looks like it's been a fairly straightforward pit stop for the former race leader, but they're going to come out very shortly in about position 16. So that's an indication of just how far down the order it will drop you pulling into the pits. Having said that, Rick Bates has dropped down to position 10 in the Class C car, but we'll be very curious to see if that is indeed the one and only stop for that car. Michael Ricketts behind the wheel of the M13 Nissan Pulsar. Quite achiever, climbing up into position 9, leading Class D and 9th position overall as the number 37 now pulls into the pit lane. So the FG Falcon FPV pulls into the pit lane, and we can already see Dave Stilwell is on the scene, so we eagerly await some updates as they come to the fore. And Rice has also pulled into the pit lane. So that is Rice on screen pulling into the pits in that FPV Falcon.
I note there, Callum, the Lotus, the leading Lotus, the 173 car, 5 minutes and 18 seconds in the pits. That's 18 minutes in the lane than it didn't need to be. And 18 seconds, is a amount of time that you really don't want to be in there for if you don't need to be. That's hard to catch up in such a competitive race. You can't just throw away 18 seconds like that. So it's a 5-minute stop they've done and out the way early. They've got the big one done. They've still got a 2.5-minute stop to go. But to throw away 18 seconds is not what you want to do. But Zach Bates now behind the wheel, the Super 2 race winner, knows this track well, knows Toyota 86s very well. A very, very good driver in Toyota 86 competition, so sort of going back to his roots, back to the last couple of years, giving us a wave. He is about to head out there, and this is going to be a really fast stint. He's an aggressive, really talented young driver. Let's see what he can do in this one. We're at 3 minutes and 52 seconds, so around about 1 minute left of this stop. Remember, this is the sole stop for this Toyota 86 machine.
Have a go at Dad, Rick. He's out of the car and immediately on the tools. He's picked up the tyre pressure gauge and checking the pressures of the Toyota 86, the number 14 entry. It's getting close to the point where it needs to start getting out of its pit box and start heading down to pit lane to get back out onto the track. And it's 4 minutes 20 seconds, so not quite, but they're going to judge it to absolute perfection because the 5 minutes is timed from the pit entry line to the pit exit line, and they'll have a clear or a fairly clear indication of when they need to leave so that they can minimise the amount of time, because as Dan was pointing out earlier, 18 seconds additional to the 173 in terms of pit lane time was just not ideal. It's 18 seconds that you're not going to get back. Number 23 entry of Hawkins has pulled into pit lane, so that is the Commodore. You can see at the top of the screen. And here comes Zach Bates. How did he time that one? That was coming close to 5 minutes as he was getting to the exit line there. And the 1-2-3 machine is smoking as it comes into the pit lane. 4 minutes 56 seconds on our timing screen for the Bates entry. That's just what the timing screen suggests, and we have that MX-5 pulling in the pit lane, so it looks like there's some mechanical mishaps underneath that car and pulling into the pit lane, Dan. And we've got Head in the pit lane as well.
Yeah, we believe that car, the 1-2-3, was smoking, so yeah, that's why that has come in the lane. But 4 minutes 56 seconds, if that is true, and normally the pit lane timing is very accurate. If it is true, then I see a slam dunk penalty there, and quite a severe one. You, if you do not serve the correct compulsory pit stop time, you get hit with a huge slab of time. We could see the team working on the Mazda MX-5. But Dave, I believe you're down there with the Bateses in the Toyota 86 camp. Down to you, Dave.
Thank you, Dan. I am down here with Bates Senior. Rick, you've just gotten out of the car. They had you on the tools checking the tyre pressures. Is that something you're very critical that you want to look after yourself?
I thought, if he went and took the caps off, I'll just check the pressures. We had plenty of time, so no problems. Yeah.
Now, given the division that you're running in, you do only have to complete one compulsory 5-minute stop that you've now got out of the way, but the car doesn't have the endurance fuel system in it yet, so you are going to have to make another stop to make it to the end.
Yes, we're hoping for a safety car. So someone might wander on the track or something. No, we're hoping for a safety car, so that's the only way we've got a chance, so yeah.
Now, we're used to seeing the Bates name in lights, particularly with Toyota, obviously in the rally world, but it's been great to see Zach's progress in the circuit racing world, moving up from Toyotas now into Super 2. Can you tell us what it's been like as a father, obviously seeing some of that happen?
Yeah, no, it's been great to see it happen. Obviously, it's stressful watching. Obviously very big budgets for Super 2, so it's a big commitment, but he's doing well, and hopefully he can make it into the main game.
Now, the car that you're running this weekend, this is a 3E production touring car, the kind of thing we'll see in the High-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 Hour. Can we expect to see a Bates family entry at the 6 Hour next year?
Yeah, really, it's just around timing. When either rallies are on from a brother, because it would be a joint thing, we'd have to put a fuel system in it, etc. I wouldn't say it's out of the question, but there's we'll just see what happens. Because often between the 86 series, Super 2 and Neil's rally program, there's not that many spare weekends, so we'll just see where it falls and how we go.
plenty of time to sleep when you retire. Wish you all the best for the rest of the race.
No worries, thank you.
Back to you guys.
A great driver in his own right, Rick Bates. He has driven in multiple Bathurst endurance races over the years. A class winner in the Bathurst 24 hours, of course, that ran for a couple of years in the early noughties. So he certainly knows how to steer himself, and his son is continuing the mantle of the Bates name. And speaking of Toyotas and 86s, there is a flapping rear guard on the right corner of the number 86 machine, which is shared between Heiniger and Chapman, and that's not good news. But I saw that it's been like that for a couple of laps, or quite a few laps in fact, but it appears to be getting worse and worse. It was only really the corner just around the wheel, and it's worked its way now all the way, basically the entire panel there flapping about, so that will need to be addressed potentially, as the 718 BMW now has entered the lane, and that is the Essman and Robinson combination in that BMW. And look at how busy pit lane is at the moment. There are so many cars in there, including the Chiara Zabatakis machine. She's done 44 laps. I reckon she'll now hand over to Jet Herring, who will finish the race off. The youngest combination in this race. They're in the number 79 Mazda MX-5. And those two have never teamed up before, but they're doing a mighty fine job at the moment out there on the racetrack. They were just outside the top 10 when this whole pit stop sequence started, and they're around there now at the moment as the race leader enters the pits. Kaptanovic is in now, as well as serving a 5-minute stop and a 2.5-minute stop. We have to remember that this car has to serve an additional 15 seconds. We can see it on the screens in front of us on the left-hand side. That was for exiting pit lane on the out lap and crossing the blend line, a huge no-no in motorsport. So that has to be served in this pit stop. The question is, will they serve the 5-minute first or the 2.5-minute first? Generally what we see is you get the big one done and out the way early, and that means if there's a safety car later on, you can serve the 2.5 minutes and not go down a lap. So I expect the 5 minutes to be served early on in this one. This is good news. The number 1 Hyundai Veloster. Last time we were on board, we just finished an interview with Tabitha Ambrose, and Brad Gardner was limping around the track just trying to get the car back into the pits. It's good to see that's back out and working well. A car run by the Wodonga TAFE students, and they've done a really, really good job on this car all weekend long, and it's such a shame that such a strange issue occurred in the race. Here's the Alfa Romeo 156 with a 156 emblazoned on the side of it. Haven't seen too much of it this weekend, but it's been a little bit of a quiet achiever out there on the racetrack, and it's comfortably inside the top 20 at the moment, so doing a really nice job out there at this point in time. Just moved up to 14th on that lap with Zabatakis in the lane, but it's so interesting in Class C, D and E at the moment, who's pitted, who hasn't, as Zach Bates is moving forwards in the 86. Look up the inside of the Alfa Romeo now, and trying to find a way through. Great images brought to us by Brad Gardner just over his left shoulder. Real personalities down there. When I spoke to them on Friday, Brad Gardner and Tabitha Ambrose, certainly up for a laugh, and they're really enjoying their weekend. Both of them great steerers in their various categories. Tabitha in Hyundai XL Racing, really starting out her career. Brad's been around for a number of years more than she has. He's a front runner in the TA2 muscle car series, but a great combination in that Veloster. As we look at the car that was leading the race, it's just come in and served its first compulsory pit stop. And I believe, Dave, you've got an update for us on this Lotus.
Thank you, guys. I'm down here with my friend from Prod Sports New South Wales, Glenn Townsend. Glenn, you got out of the race-leading car 173, the Lotus Exige. Now, we did see you at the Sydney 300. We had an Accu sump that was more of an Accu pump or an Accu cannon in the engine bay of that Lotus. Tell us, how's the car running in the first part of the race?
Well, it's running really well. Temperatures are good, even though it's quite warm out there. I had a great stint, led from lap 3, I think it was, till lap 35. People are being pretty courteous out there. Bit of rubbish on the track, but other than that, it's going really well, yeah.
So there is a bit of debris out on the circuit. There was a little bit of that which held our friend Adrian, that cruelled Adrian Wilson's campaign in the BMW M4, and Sully, unfortunately, was the pole behind the wheel. So things are looking up for some New South Wales Prod Sports competitors, but not so good for some others.
Yes, and every time you come and interview me, it tends to go downhill. So fingers crossed, we're going really well. Thank you to our sponsors, Better Marine, and also Weemus Transport.
Now, you've got Aaron in the car for the moment. He'll do the middle stint. You do have to stop one more time just to make it on fuel.
Correct. We'll do a 2.5 minute stop if we can get it done in that time, and then bring it home, hopefully.
Now, you're not intending to change cars. You're one of the small number of runners that's running on slick tyres. You're the only competitor running on Hankook slicks. How are the tyres looking at the end of that first stint?
Tyres are hanging really well. Probably overinflated just a little bit, but it's pretty good. So as it cools down, I think we'll come back in the window.
Fantastic. We wish you well for the rest of the race. We look forward to not having had a chat with you for the rest of the day.
Thanks very much, Dave. Thank you.
Back to you.
Thank you, Dave. Down in the pit lane there. There's the 173 on screen. Mechanical Gremlins aside from the Pitcher Partners Sydney 300. It is forging ahead after its compulsory pit stop. This occurred during the interview. The number 1 Hyundai Veloster once again limping back to pit lane. Mechanical issues striking more than just that car. The 101 now of Bell is being sidelined at turn 9. It's pulled off to the right-hand side on the infield there with the officials' safety area there, as does the Gartner number 1 Hyundai Veloster. In fact, it's the same part of the circuit where we've got 2 cars off there, so plenty going on for the officials to observe and feed that information back to race control to make a determination as to what to do here. But it looks like Bell is out of the 101, and that is heartbreaking stuff there for the Nissan 370Z. He's actually gesturing for something from the official, just wants to run something by them. Here's the 411 in the pits, running a nice and easy refueling pit stop. Part of that, it looks like a scheduled stop. CPS, you can see there one of the crew members with a fire extinguisher at the ready, which is part of the regulations, as well as earthing the car. They need to make sure that someone is ready with a fire extinguisher at all times during refueling. As well as during refueling, there is to be no work completed on the rest of the car during that process. The priority is on safety. We're actually operating under Victorian WorkSafe conditions here at the racetrack, given it is a private business, this venue. So we have to adhere to those regulations. So you can see there just easing the fuel into the Mazda MX-5 in the pit lane. Michael Ricketts' watch, that car in Class D, has currently made its way up into position 6. As you can see through the top of the screen there, the Hyundai Veloster making its way into the pit lane for the second time, or the third time I dare say, given its troubled run so far in this race. But as I was saying, Ricketts in the car that he's sharing this weekend with Josh Haynes, slowly creeping up the order. And given it is in Class D, it only has to stop once for 5 minutes, being in that D division. And I was just going to point out to you as well, Dan, that given it is a bit of a slower car, it probably hasn't got as much power as some of the high horsepower cars as well. We do expect it's going to go a lot longer in this race in terms of not needing to pull in for a fill up with fuel, and it's a lot kinder on its tyres as well. So that's a dark horse. It's certainly in contention for a top 10, I'd say, at this stage. So not only is he leading Class D, but he's 5th position overall at the moment before he hands over to Josh Haynes, and we know how capable he is behind the wheel of the number 41 Nissan N13 Pulsar. Jerry Burgess is currently leading the way in the number 33 Mitsubishi Evo, leading Class C and the overall order as well. We should point out they haven't yet stopped in this race, and we have 48 laps completed in this race, with this pit stop taking place nice and easy. It's a wonderful example of the process that the teams all up and down pit lane have to follow because safety is paramount with refueling when you're introducing refueling and potential tyre changes into the mix with grassroots motorsport.
Yeah, absolutely. The Class E car, the leading Class E car is in the lane. That is the machine out there of Perry and Astakis. So Lindmeyer has taken the lead in Class E, but is yet to stop. And the reigning champs are in. Boydell has done 47 laps behind the wheel of that Mazda MX-5, and will hand it over to his co-driver, his new co-driver for the Winton 300. It's Todd Herring, who won the Sydney 300 just a few months ago. In fact, he's a 3-time Sydney 300 winner, but he's never won the Pitcher Partners Winton 300 before. So Boydell's looking to go back-to-back, and his co-driver looking to win it for the very first time this year. So there's a lot of stories to play out as we very quickly approach the halfway stage of this race. It's absolutely flown by. I noted, Callum, that the number 8 machine didn't do the 5-minute stop. It was either a long 2.5-minute stop or a very short 5-minute stop. I think to avoid a penalty, they'll say that was a very long 2.5-minute stop. So that was not good news for the number 8 machine, with Thompson now behind the wheel. That was, not exactly what the doctor ordered there. Daniel Keptanovic has stepped out of the car. Adam Thompson now behind the wheel. The New South Wales drivers sharing duties in that machine, but it's really not been a good day so far for BMW competition drivers in this race. Whoever it is out there on the track, if you've got a BMW, you've generally had an issue at some point or another, and there is that machine as I talk about it on the racetrack, looking up the inside there of Charlie Viola. I'm not sure if Viola is still behind the wheel now. We're at that stage of the race where a majority of the cars have now pitted, and the number 13 and the number 8 are on the racetrack together. But Giantini is yet to pit, so he's 2 laps nearly ahead of this number 8 BMW. They were pretty close together on the road a few minutes ago, but one has served the stop. That one there, the number 13, has not, as it overlaps the VW Scirocco around the outside of the gum tree. This is shaping up. We can sort of see now how the strategies are working out. I note the top 3 in the race all set PB laps on the last lap. Burgess, Ashton and Giantini, they know they're about to pit. They've got to make hay while they are still in the car, and they are pushing really hard. All of them in the very, very low 35s, and they are pushing more than they ever have before. Jerry Burgess has done a great job in the opening stint of this race. He's ahead of the Class B Ashton-driven machine, but Ashton's going to hand it over to the pro, you'd almost say, in the lineup. Ashton's never done a motor race before. He's done time trials, but never shared the track with other vehicles before. And we've seen as the stint's gone on over these 50 laps, how much more confident he's been getting lap upon lap, improving and improving, and that's why he's setting his fastest laps at the moment. But his co-driver Jimmy Tran nearly won the race in 2022. He was so close. A throttle sensor issue meant that on the penultimate lap of the race, he limped home, and sadly for him, his brother overtook him on the very last lap of the race. And Callum, I see you're pointing at something on the timing screen.
Sorry, my pen was in the wrong position there, mate, but Jerry Burgess at the head of the field. I think the crucial number we have just reached is 51. You can see on the top of the timing screen, just underneath the Pitcher Partners sign. What that tells me is that they can now pit at any point and know that they're going to get home on fuel. So that car is not drinking anywhere near as much fuel as perhaps some of the other runners up and down pit lane were expecting. But that doesn't take into account the tyre usage as well. So a 35 is very quick. Ashton's ever so slightly quicker, as Dan said, at 1 minute 34.2. So outright pace, Ashton is actually closing that gap, but he does have to stop for 2.5 minutes longer in that car. Boydell still in the pit lane. 4 minutes 45, or getting close to it. So they're about to emerge from the pit lane. But the 173 with Townsend, not Townsend behind the wheel, he's handed it over. But that car, crucially, is actually passed on track the car of Boydell. It currently sits in position 8, does the Lotus Exige, the number 173, and starting to press ahead following its compulsory pit stop. Now, it did stop before lap 50, so it's a little bit of a question mark. We do know it has to stop for another 2.5 minutes because they can do a quick stop and fill there. Burgess on screen. Here's the York Developments, number 33, Mitsubishi Evo, doing a great job. But you can see that's the gap between P1 and P2 outright. Damon Ashton, limited on-track experience. Everything he's experienced in terms of actual racing is all within this race. 52 laps of the Winton Motor Raceway during the Winton Pitcher Partners Winton 300. And the number 37 FPV allowing the Evo through, giving him plenty of space, and they'll complete yet another lap. That's incredible fuel mileage from the Evo, with Ashton following closely behind. So officially, as they come across the start-finish line, the gap was 1.4 seconds the last time around, and it's been shrunk down to a second. So the 818 Honda Integra is coming from behind, is closing the gap, and he's evenly matched on fuel numbers as well. But it is a front-wheel drive car compared to an all-wheel drive car as well, so there's some considerations there. Was that a bit of an off-track mishap there for the Evo as well? It put just ever so slightly a tyre off into the dirt, running just a little bit too far on the left-hand side coming into turn 3. But the BYP Integra just behind, very quick, looking quite handy. That's a bit of a quiet achiever so far in this race, with Giantini still sitting in 3rd position. So the fuel numbers are looking very promising for at least the top 3. Michael Ricketts currently sitting in position 4. You can see him on the timing tower, the number 41. He is a lap down at the moment, but he's still 4th outright, and most definitely leading Division D behind the wheel of that N13 Nissan Pulsar. So doing a great job before he inevitably pulls into the pit lane and hands over to Josh Haynes. And we're getting updates from pit lane as well. Dave and Lisa working tirelessly down in the pit lane to bring us all the information. Car 35 has a failed wheel bearing, and that's forced them out of the race. And a CPS driver change for car 1 as well. And speaking of Dave down into pit lane, we're going to hand over to Dave.
Thank you, Callum. So I'm down here with Simon Agar, the driver of the number 787 Hyundai i30N sedan. But Simon, you haven't had a chance to have a drive yet this afternoon.
No, we've got about 27 laps or so to go, and then I'll be finishing it off.
So the car doesn't yet have the endurance fuel system in it that you would need to do an event like the High-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 Hour. But the car's running well, but you are experiencing, I guess, the issues with sticking with some of the original equipment electronics.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we've had problems with the diff. We're running through way more fuel than we expected. The brakes are having problems, but that's what this is all about, is to sort of, sort those issues out before we get to Bathurst.
It's one of the best endurance tests you can do is these events, these 300k races, because you're up against so many of the same competitors that you might be in when you step up to do an event like the Bathurst 6 Hour. Talk us through what the strategy is. Now, you've updated to Division A. I believe that's because you've got to do 2 stops, so you've really got no other choice.
Yeah, 2 stops, and a bit of extra time to cool everything down. But there was only 2 cars in Division A, so we thought, let's give it a shot compared to B. Why not? Means we go home with a trophy.
Now, will you be making it through the race, you reckon, on 1 set of tyres the whole way through, or you might have to do a preemptive tyre stop just as a precaution?
1 set of tyres is fine. The AO50s are really good. They last. We'll get a little bit more out of this, another track weekend or something like that out of them. So yeah, they're really good. They'll last no problem.
Now, some race teams have a tradition that if the driver goes off or if they flat spot a tyre, they owe the pit crew a slab. What's Nick going to owe the team after that little safari journey after the first pit stop?
Well, he pays for everything, so nothing, I don't imagine. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to catching up with you in Victory Lane. Hopefully you don't have to have a chat before then.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Back to you guys in commentary.
Thanks, Dave. Had the pleasure of chatting to the Agars on Friday. Great personalities, both of them. Unfortunately, it's just a few teething issues so far this weekend for them debuting this car. Both 300 veterans, but new machine for them this weekend out there in the A class. There's a few more front runners that have pitted. The 791, the reigning champions, came in. They did their 5-minute stop, their sole 5-minute stop, and it was 5 minutes and 3 seconds. It was a great stop from them, pretty much timing that to absolute perfection. And it's that sort of stuff, those little 1%ers that won them the race here last year. And they did a fantastic job last year, because the 1% is where you can lose the race, just like that, locking up on the screen. It just damaged your tyres and will continue to be locked up as the race progresses. But it's the 1%ers that can lose you. The crossing the blend lines on the outlap to the grid, the not quite doing the allocated pit stop time, that's a significant penalty. There are all these little 1%ers not quite getting the fuel nozzle in correctly, costing yourself seconds that way. These are all the little 1%ers that can cost you at the end of a 300-kilometre race. So Boydell and his teammate in the number 791 of Todd Herring, both of them absolutely nailing the stop. 5 minutes and 3 seconds. The other news story I've seen is that car 8, I spoke about that only being in the lane for 4 minutes. Didn't serve the 5-minute pit stop. And it's come up on timing that it has successfully served its 2.5-minute stop, but it does not count that as a 5-minute stop, and rightfully so. So I don't know if they've misread the timing on their phones or what has happened, but those are the 1%ers I was just talking about, and that's disastrous. So effectively, they've spent an extra minute and a half, an entire lap in the pits when they didn't need to. If they'd have stayed in for an extra minute, they'd have done the 5-minute stop, but as a result, they stayed in the lane for 4 minutes, a very odd amount of time, and now as well still have to serve the 5-minute stop. So that's going to be 9 minutes in the lane for that BMW. So that's not good news at all. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's not good news at all for that particular machine. It served a 2.5-minute pit stop, but not a 5-minute stop. Callum, there's lots of talking points at this point in the race. There's split strategies, everybody doing all sorts of different things, including the Class D leader, Ricketts, who will now hand over the car to Josh Haynes. And they have been sharing the pole, so they've shared it in a number of races, and they are always fast in the divisions in which they compete. Class D this weekend, and their compulsory pit stop is now being served.
On screen now, was the race leader before pulling into the pits, but currently sits in 6th position overall. Has done a 1:32.5 in this race. Currently is 2.6 laps adrift of the lead, but we're still waiting for Burgess, Ashton, Giantini to pull into the pit lane. So on corrected order, it should be in 2nd position. I believe it is behind the number 8 entry. So good to see that we're starting to see a cleansed field, and Ricketts indeed is in the pit lane. So here is the number 8 Pinnacle Automotive, the pole sitter for this race, with Thompson behind the wheel in the 328i. The E36 BMW, it's a beautiful shape. A timeless classic is that shape, the two-door BMW. Here comes Zach Bates streaming through, and we've got the Jones Mazda 323 in the background there as well. So it's good to see that they've overcome their mechanical gremlins that forced them into the pit lane before the compulsory pit stop window opened earlier in this race. They've actually made 2 trips through the pit lane to sort out the car, and it's back out there and circulating. So we've got Dave Stilwell in the pit lane with an update.
Thank you, guys. So we saw earlier, car 17, one of the Pinnacle Automotive BMWs. This is the normally aspirated car, pulled out of the race. I thought we'd have a look and see just what went wrong with it. You can see how the engine bay is covered in coolant. This is the top radiator hose where you'd get the hot coolant out of the engine straight into the radiator. The top radiator neck, it's actually sheared straight off. So there's no chance of getting that back on. And of course, because it's a production-based vehicle, runs the production radiator with the aluminium elements, but the plastic end tank. So that's it for this car. Now, they are experiencing an issue in car 8, where they've got an intermittent misfire aboard the Kapitanovich supercharged BMW E36 328. So what they've done is they've taken the coil packs out, of car 17. They've got them standing to one side ready to go. So when that car does come into one of its compulsory pit stops, they'll have some spare parts ready to go. So although car 17 is out of the race, parts of it may live on and help car number 8 make it to the finish line. Back to you in commentary.
Thank you, Dave. Down there in the pit lane, and coil packs strike once again. That hit the 818 BYP Honda Integra last year, forced them into the pit lane in the closing stages of this race. So with the misfire, the team at Pinnacle Automotive looking at the BMW 328i. Oh, and is this Thomas or Thompson behind the wheel here of the number 12 Honda Civic? It's pulled over to the driver's left-hand side. It did pull into the pit lane earlier. I think it definitely has served its compulsory pit stop, but not too sure if there was an issue at that time. And it is parked up on the left-hand side at turn 9. Is he trying to fire that car back up again? It looks like he might have lit the fire underneath the bonnet of that Honda Civic. No, not at the moment. He is searching around the cockpit trying to find a solution. He'll be on the radio to the team to give them an update. I'm sure they're well and truly aware, tuning into the Blendline TV broadcast from the back of the garage, feeding them as much information as they can. This car featured in the top 10 shootout for qualifying earlier this weekend, and it's now parked up on the left-hand side. So the Honda Civic doesn't appear to be going anywhere at this stage. There would definitely be local yellows. You can see, we can actually see from our vantage point across the circuit that they do indeed have yellow flags displayed to the drivers. And we've got the crew very quickly on the scene there. The safety crew working tirelessly all weekend to clean up all the mishaps that have occurred throughout the different sprint support category races, including the Australian Super Trucks, as well as their tireless efforts throughout this 300-kilometre endurance race at the Winton Motor Raceway. Good news for that. It means it doesn't look like we're going to get a safety car for that one. So this race still hasn't seen a safety car. There was a few discussions up and down pit lane that given the higher volume of cars entered in this race in comparison to last year, that some people were expecting a safety car. But that has not transpired so far in this race. So great effort by the officials to clean up the mishap. We've got Dave Stillwell in the pit lane with an update.
So we're down here in the BM Performance Garage. Now, a gentleman we normally see behind the wheel of a number of very fast Ford Falcons in sports sedans and, of course, improved production, was recently had to wave goodbye to his improved production national title thrown in the last couple of years, is Ray Hislop. Now, Ray, you've come across from Tasmania. You've got the vintage Ray Hislop Motorsport race suit out. Now, you're not behind the wheel this weekend. Tell us what's going on.
No, look, this weekend, couple of mates, Ken Christie owns car 154, Bob Jowett from Sydney's co-driving with him, so yeah, I'm just here as a bit of help and a bit of words of encouragement for them for the weekend.
Now, you can't stay away from the joint. Now, I understand you recently, as much as you might like pumping the fuel for some BMWs, we might be seeing you in sports sedans with an updated Falcon in the near future. You might have picked up a couple of panels recently.
Yeah, certainly. Look, you know, my old IP car is being reborn as a sports sedan, so that's my passion at the moment. That's what I'm doing to get myself busy.
Now, would we maybe see that car turn up here at a Winton 300? You do have the adjustable in-car sway bars, so you can tune a set of slick tyres nicely throughout the course of the 300k race, and you are permitted to do the race solo if you feel so inclined.
Yeah, but I'm getting a bit old for that now, so no, I'm more than happy this weekend just to be helping out and pumping some fuel, but mind you, getting a bit of arm pumps. Electric pump's probably the way to go.
And now, you were mentioning earlier before we went on air that perhaps one of the drivers is feeling a bit of arm pump or a bit of brain pump throughout the course of this race. You've had to do another driver change and someone's going all the way to the end?
Yeah, look, Ken, who owns the car, just started to feel a little bit crook. So, you know, he came, jumped out because he couldn't continue driving safely. So Bob's hopped back in the car, and yeah, Bob, being the athlete that he is, he'll be fine. He can run as long as he needs to, and I think he's enjoying driving a BMW, and who knows, one day I'll try and get him in a Ford.
We can only hope. Thank you, Ray. Back to you in Central Commentary.
Thanks for that one, Dave. Great to chat with Ray Hislop, a man who's been around motorsport for many, many years. And oh dearie me, this Veloster is playing up once again. out there on the race circuit, pulled over to the side of the course, trying to let the other machines through. Oh, you don't want to be there, right on the apex of the corner. Around the outside goes the 818 machine of Ashton. But again, this machine, you can hear Tabitha now behind the wheel saying, I'm coming in. So she will be bringing that machine back in the lane, of course, at the end of this lap. But this car has been plagued with issues throughout the race. You can see when the engine dies, the screens all go off, all the dials turn off. So it's in and out, very unstable electronics or something down there, but it's not good at all. And she will come in the lane and join Jerry Burgess, who was the race leader in the number 33 Evo, and will hand the car over to his father now. So Jerry will be in the wheel of that machine. Ashton is also in, who will hand over to Jimmy Tran. So a couple of changes in the lane, and there is Tabitha at the back of the shot as well. There are just 40 laps remaining in this race. The drivers that are yet to come in have to come in the next 10 laps. You got to serve your stop before the end of lap number 70. A bit of dancing going on down there in the lane. Very nice moves. Like to see them pulled off on a Saturday night at the disco. That was quite something to behold in the Winton pit lane down there. As we see Tabitha back in, and they will try and sort out those reoccurring gremlins with that machine. So the Burgesses change over. Lee is out. Jerry is now behind the wheel in the number 33 machine. What can they do in the final stint of this race? We're going for a tyre stop. Front left is being changed. It's the most used tyre here really at Winton. It's always turning. It's a clockwise circuit, and it's a technical circuit. Lots of hairpins, lots of long, loaded, slow corners, and it puts a lot of pressure on the left front. So Lee jumping out, and I can see that is Jerry behind the wheel now, the father of the two, looking at the Natsoft timing to see just how long that machine has been in the lane. I can tell you that it's been in the lane now for 3.5 minutes, so just a further minute and a half in the lane, and then that car will be out and free, and that will potentially be the first runner to have done all of its stops. We'll wait and see. At this point in time, it is this machine out there on the race circuit sitting in fourth. The 173 Lotus is the first car on the running order to do a full 5-minute stop, but it's still got to come in again. It's Division B. It's got a 2.5 minute stop still to go. So this will play a factor. But Jerry Burgess, who's about to jump out onto the circuit, has done the sole stop that is required for the Evo. There's still a couple of drivers yet to pit. The Giancini machine, the number 13 car, that's yet to serve its compulsory stop. Matthew and Aaron sharing their Honda Civic. They're yet to stop. They are now the race leaders. Another one yet to pit is the 322 Toyota 86 of the Tierney's, Daniel and Jeff Tierney. And I think that is about all of the front runners. I'm just looking at Lynn Mayer, the leader in Division E, is also yet to stop. That's the number 53 machine. So they will have to come in. Lynn Mayer sharing with John Connolly. So that also has to come in. So there'll be potential changes in Division E, although that car was right at the pointy end anyway. Off goes Jerry Burgess. The pit stop time, 5 minutes 7.4. It's from the time you enter the pit lane to the time you exit the lane, and that was nailed pretty much perfectly out there on the circuit. There's a couple of Class B cars ahead of it on the road, but as I note, once again, the Bs have to do an extra 2.5 minutes. That is the first car to complete all of its compulsory pit stops out there on the racetrack. They sit 6th, and all of the stops have been done. They're just a few seconds down the road on the reigning champions, Boydell, with now Todd Herring behind the wheel of that car to bring it home. And speaking to Todd Herring on Friday, he was telling me that this Mazda MX-5 he's driving this weekend is so much more pointy than the car that he's used to. It handles very differently to his MX-5. They might be the same make and model, but they handle very, very differently. But he thinks it's an absolute jet, an absolute weapon, and he's really enjoying his time sharing the car with Andrew Boydell this weekend. And we're seeing on the screens that the 818 machine is in the lane of Ashton, who is sharing with Jimmy Tran, and Jimmy is now behind the wheel. I just saw his eyes as he heads down the lane. This is going to be pretty much bang on 5 minutes, 4:58, 4:59, 5 minutes, 5:01. How tight do you like it? 5:02.5. That's pretty much perfect. But remember, it's a Class B car. It's still got to do one more stop. Out there on the track, though, we see the number 33 is going to be lapped potentially by Giantini, but the number 13 might be leading by 2 laps, but it's yet to serve its pit stop. So there's plenty more to play out. It's got to do it, though, in the next 5 minutes. Time is ticking away now. You have to serve it. You've got to enter the lane by the commencement of lap number 71. So there are 5 more laps for Matthew Giantini to drive that machine before handing over to Matthew. You can only do a maximum of 70 laps in this motor race. It happens to be that the compulsory pit stop window closes at 70 laps, so there's no risk of missing that little rule and going too far, because you've got to pit anyway. So out there on the circuit, we're looking at the 173 machine. This is a car currently in second with Townsend. Townsend handed the car over. It says on timing it's Townsend behind the wheel.
Webby's behind the wheel.
Yes, it is indeed. And doing a mighty fine job out there at the moment.
Yeah, doing a splendid job. Lapping consistently, 135s at the moment. That is quickest on track at this point of the race. So the 173 Lotus Exige on screen here. It sounds brilliant. You can hear the supercharger screaming as it comes past our camera points. And doesn't it look the part as well? So Townsend did a great job during his stint before handing it over to Wemmys as he screams past our camera point coming on to the main straight. Currently sitting in position 2 overall. However, they've got another stop coming their way. Giantini has finally pulled into the pit lane. Made it 64 laps into this race on a single tank of fuel. So that Honda Civic, the number 13, extremely frugal with its fuel usage. So he's pulled into the pit lane and is the last of the top 10 to do so. A fantastic opening stint there from Giantini. So he's obviously going to hand over to his teammate and will be in the pit lane for 5 minutes, and that will be the last of its necessary compulsory pit stop time spent in the pit lane. Here we are on screen, Charlie Viola, actually Tamara behind the wheel, I believe, at the moment in the number 7 N13 Pulsar, doing a really good job, a brilliant job for the Pitcher Partners entry. And speaking of Pitcher Partners, we have Dave Stillwell down in the pit lane.
Our wonderful sponsor, Charlie Viola from Pitcher Partners, who, with that recent pit stop for Car 53, has inherited the lead of Class E. Tell us about your race so far.
Yeah, mate, good. It's fine. It's sort of going to plan. I left Benny in P1, so now he just needs to bring it home and manage that gap to Parry, who's about half a lap behind him. So it's been a bit of a challenge, actually. It's challenging driving the car just a touch slower than what it can do, but we just weren't going to make it on. Weren't going to make it with fuel, so we went a bit more conservative. We're doing Class E. Hopefully Benny can bring it home and we get a trophy.
Well, that's always the thing you've got to strive for. If you've got a car that can run at or just beyond the pace of the division that you're nominated for, you've got to really watch it. It is the all brand, it's the high fibre, it's the massively regular, monotonous, way of doing motor racing, but you've done well so far. I think you've only broken out once or twice?
Yeah, I broke out twice, so I've made it hard for Benny. He can't break out at all now, we get the penalty. So my dash was about half a second wrong, So I was just struggling a little bit, and I was having boys yell at me through the thing as I came onto the straight, whether or not I was under or over. So it's actually quite challenging because you can't get yourself into a groove. When you're going 10/10ths, you get into a groove and you're just doing your best. When you're trying to back off and change early and short shift, it's actually far harder, to be honest. So.
Well, don't worry. I think Ayrton Senna spoke about that one time when his team told him to back off a little bit. He lost the rhythm and he stuck the car in the fence. So the fact you've stayed out of the fence so far is a pretty good indicator. Now, we should talk about the other big thing. You are wearing Pitcher Partners merchandise. You've already jumped out of the car. Tell us, what brought the relationship between Pitcher Partners and these events together, and what are some of the things that people can expect from Pitcher Partners if they choose them as a service?
So really, I guess I sponsor these events really just as a means of giving back, to be honest. Motorsport's been really kind of good to me. I love it. It's great respite. It's good fun. You know, I just kind of love it. I love being competitive, sort of uber competitive kind of person. So whenever these kind of grassroots categories put their hand up and need, you know, a little bit of help, I just love doing it, right? Because we're all here. We all work really hard to kind of be here. You know, us putting a few dollars in means that a whole bunch of people can kind of come and enjoy it. So love it. In terms of who we are, we're a mid-tier chartered accounting firm. We do all the normal kind of accounting services, tax, corporate finance, advisory. I run our wealth management business. We manage sort of $4.5 billion of assets under management for sort of wealthy people. So it's good. Love it. I've been there for 23 odd years. They're very supportive of my interests. They let me come and do this sort of stuff, so that's great.
So if people need to justify race cars as an investment and marketing strategy, Pitcher Partners are definitely the people to speak to.
Mate, I reckon happy people are hard-working people are wealthy people, right? So you've got to find your happy place, and for some of us it's coming and getting respite here. So, you know, it's just our way of giving back. So.
Well, on behalf of the entire grassroots motorsport community, we want to say a big thank you to you and everyone at Pitcher Partners for being on board for these events. It's massively appreciated.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Go, Benny. Let's hope you bring it home and we get the top step. So.
Back to you guys in central commentary.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Charlie, down there in the pit lane. It is a big thanks to Pitcher Partners for throwing their support behind grassroots motor racing, especially grassroots endurance racing. And Viola there embodying the very spirit of grassroots endurance racing there. Oh, that looks like one of the blankets. They've got a cover that has gone along with the Gentini Civic as it was leaving its pit box during its CPS. So that's an unnecessary delay, having to pull up and take off the fuel cover there. And you can see at the top of the screen as well the number 156 Alpha being pushed back into the garage by the looks of things. But we should just say big thanks to Charlie Viola for throwing his support behind this event, and he does embody the very sense, the very spirit of this, in that it's all about enjoyment. It's all about going out and having fun, and also you want to get a couple of trophies at the end of the weekend as well, and he's done a sensational job so far. His first experience of the Winton Motor Raceway. So the Gentini car, the number 13 Civic, and there's a bit of dust, a bit of smoke in the air down there in the pit lane. That looks like the Agar Hyundai, if I'm not mistaken, the 787 machine down there in the pit lane. And Agar is stepping out of the vehicle and into the car. I'm not too sure if it's Nick or Simon, so apologies, boys, in advance. Simon jumping into the car. So into the pit lane. This will obviously form their CPS, or one of their CPSs, for the duration of this race. They're the only class, or Division A class car remaining in this race. So they've got 2 5-minute stops, but they're buried down in the field at the moment. So perhaps the division designation for that car probably didn't reflect the outright pace of the car, given that they've been hampered by electronic issues so far this weekend. But they pull out their socks and they press on regardless. They are out there and enjoying themselves. They said last year they'll be back with a different car, and indeed they are. 818, Jimmy Tran behind the wheel up the inside there of the number 37 car of Rice. And have a look at the brake temperatures here on the Tierney entry, the Toyota 86 in the pit box at the moment. It's just a good representation of, these are closer to production cars than you would perhaps expect from something like the stock cars we saw earlier today, which is a 100% bespoke race car built from the ground up. despite the fact these cars are closer to production showroom condition, they're still pressing on just as hard. And the brake upgrades that are required to be able to withstand those sorts of temperatures and stresses just goes to show there and just how robust these race cars are, especially in an endurance sense. Now, the Pinnacle Autosport BMW back in the pit lane, is that a suggestion that there could be some coil issues, as Dave touched on earlier?
Well, this is their second stop, but importantly, Callum, they've already been in the lane 5.5 minutes. So any second that they're spending in the lane now is time that does not need to be served. And this is robbing them of a potential fight for the victory. They were doing so well early on in the race, but this is absolutely disastrous. And as you say, maybe it is to do with those coil packs. The 322 Toyota 86 that we saw in the lane, that was the very last car to complete its sole stop in Division D. The Division D leaders as a result. Will they emerge ahead of the number 5 car, which has completed the stop with Matthew Thulis currently behind the wheel, and that is also an 86. Class D really is almost the 86 division out there at the moment. We've just had an off-track excursion by the looks of it, and it's a Mazda MX-5. I think that was the one that went off at turn 12 earlier on in the race, the 411 machine shared by Daniel Hay and Richard Barham out there on the race circuit, but fortunately no damage done. Play on, says the referee, as Zach Bates has come in again. Well, this is yeah,
that's a curious development.
Yeah,
we did see on the timing screen it would suggest it might have been an under 5-minute pit stop. Don't want to cast any dispersions around that, but the fact is he's back in the pit lane, the number 14 car, and you can see there they're actually putting fuel into the car, so maybe this is part of the plan. Obviously, they said earlier they would have to pull back into the pits to fuel it up to be able to achieve the race distance, given it hasn't got its endurance tank or anything like that set up at the moment.
Well, they said that they'd need to if there wasn't another safety car, didn't they? Well, wouldn't you leave it out and hope for a safety car? But there's still 32 laps to go, so would you not try and leave it out as late as you possibly could, hoping that a safety car comes in the remaining third of the race? It's an interesting strategy call, but I'd have potentially left it a little bit later and hoped that the safety car does come and serve that while the field is slow and the race is neutralised.
So, car on screen right now going hard at the front of the field, the 173. They have to stop again for 2.5 minutes.
Yep.
What does that mean? It's 1:13 between them and position 2, Jimmy Tran. They also have to stop for a second time, but it's lap 70. They have to pull in this time around. They're 1.2 laps ahead of Boydell, so it's going to be pretty close. It's starting to edge up. So we're starting to see the balance between the different divisions. So with the 2 leaders at the moment, both in Class B, they have to pull in at the end of this lap. Oh no, it's the 36 entry, the Falcon Ute. Striking issues once again. They've been working tirelessly all weekend. This is getting very close here. Jerry Burgess in the number 33, switching positions with the Giantini Civic, the number 13 car you can see just ahead of the VW Fun Cup entry. And it's a big apology to Lee Burgess before. I was calling him his father earlier in this race, so apologies to Lee for that one. So Lee doing a fantastic stint earlier in this race before handing over to Jerry. Now here is a replay of that move. Taking advantage of some lap traffic here. Rather sneaky by Giantini up the inside there, capitalising on the number 55 entry there. He's checking his mirrors to the left-hand side without realising on the right-hand side a hard-charging Giantini in the Civic was on the way through. Here's the race-safe crew. The crewmen on the scene very quickly once again. Tireless efforts from the officials. We can't thank our volunteers and officials enough for their efforts, working very hard on the track side to be able to keep and clean up all the mishaps that are happening. As I say that, Townsend's pulled into the pit lane at the end of this lap, so he has already pulled into the pits. Zabatakis in Class C as well, is currently sitting in 6th position as well in the number 79 Mazda MX-5. Doing a phenomenal job with Zach Bates just behind in position 7. So the 173 in the pit lane. What's going to transpire, Dan? It's starting to heat up, it's starting to close. The accordion is coming ever so closer together.
It certainly is. So Townsend in the lane, the last person to complete their last pit stop as far as we're aware. I'm looking down the timing and I think that is all of them done, the compulsory pit stops, as they are required to be completed before the commencement of lap number 71.
Yeah, it's always Lee Burgess that starts the car, and then he hands over to his dad, who's behind the wheel of the Evo, number 33 out there at the moment, who just lost the place to Giantini. So where's Townsend going to slot out? Actually, I'm looking. Tran has started, or just finished lap number 70. He's got one more stop to do. So they'll have to come in on this next lap for certain. And there's a couple more coming in further behind. You were just saying about Zabatakis. I'm pretty sure I just saw the number 79 just in front of the truck assist sign, just behind the Fun Cup car. It is the number 79, the Class C car, which is running really, really nicely. Doesn't need to do another stop, but maybe a quick splash and dash or a change of tyres. But this is not a compulsory pit stop for the Zabatakis and Jet Herring machine, number 79. So there's a couple of dramatic and unnecessary stops being made, and these stops really do play havoc in this race. Great to see that we've been able to stay green once again, and yeah, really good to see that this race has run green. Great work by our volunteer marshals and officials out there on the racetrack, and it's coming up on timing that the pit window has closed, but this car still has its second stop to make. Goodness gracious me, Callum, I did not see this occurring. This is a Class B car. It has to do 2 stops, a 5-minute stop and a 2.5-minute stop. We outlined it early on in the race, but it's not come in. It's done another lap out there on the racetrack. What on earth is going on?
Yeah, we're stating facts from the timing screen there. You can see pit window closed, 71 laps completed, 1 pit stop done for the Class B car, 818 of Jimmy Tran. So we'll have to wait and see what unfolds there. What you can see, though, in position 2 is Boydell in the 791 Mazda MX-5, the defending winners at the Pitcher Partners Winton 300. Jimmy Tran is pressing on. A 1 minute 32.3. That's the fastest lap of the race that last time around. So there's plenty of pace in that car. With 29 laps remaining in this race, and we're coming up to 2 hours elapsed in this race. I don't know about you, Dan, but that's gone by extremely fast. Now, that is the FPV 144 Falcon that has looped it. It's swapped ends at turn 3 with Ling, I believe, behind the wheel. If not, it is Troy Williams. I'm sorry, so Troy Williams or David Ling behind the wheel of that Falcon spinning down there at turn 3, but no harm, no foul. They're able to collect themselves, compose themselves, and press on down the circuit despite the spin. Now Townsend still in the pit lane. We noted that they came in on lap 69 just before the CPS window closed, and 4 minutes has elapsed in their compulsory pit stop. Bit of a longer stop then for this time around, and we're still looking on screen there, the BYP car. So here comes the 173 coming out of the pits. Its pit stop time, according to the timing screen, was 4 minutes and 12 seconds. It'll be fueled, it'll be tied to get, it'll have tyres, enough tread to get to the end of this race. So we don't anticipate it should go back to the pit lane for the remainder of the Pitcher Partners Winton 300.
So we believe that was meant to do a 2.5-minute stop as its final stop. An extra 1.5 minutes or more in the lane, and we expected it to come out around about where the race leaders are. It's come out 2 laps down, so around about a lap and a half behind where we expected. There was the off from the Ford Falcon out there at turn number 3. Can't even see it through all the dust. There it is, re-emerging. A spectacular looking moment, but no damage or anything in a incident like that. Just flicking up the dirt, the sun really making it more difficult the way that is setting at the moment as well, and it made it look a little bit more spectacular than it probably was, but nevertheless it's a mistake that you don't want to make. You don't want to be taking tours of the gravel trap unnecessarily, but out there on the racetrack, let's run you through the field. Okay, this car we've spoken about, we believe it has one more stop to pit, and we believe that the pit window has closed. So I believe, and I'm sure Callum believes as well, that the 791 is the theoretical leader out there on the race circuit. So the 791 Mazda in Class C. Boydell, the reigning champions, sharing the car this year with Todd Herring. They are effectively out front as far as we're aware. They are 29 seconds, around half a minute clear of the Honda Civic, which is shared by Giantini, the number 13 machine, also in Class C. And then it's the Evo that we've seen a fair bit of in recent laps. Lee Burgess and Jerry Burgess out there on the circuit. They are a further 21 seconds down. So really there's about 50 seconds separating the top three at the moment with 27 laps to go. Townsend in the Lotus. We thought that would be round about the race leaders, round about where Boydell was. However, being in the lane for 4 minutes rather than 2.5 minutes now sees them pretty much a lap behind. In fact, a lap behind the car ahead, the Class C car of Burgess. So you'd almost say that that Lotus with 27 laps to go and a lap down. So a lap down on the cars ahead. Zach Bates is the class out there in Class C, number 14, Toyota 86, and I'm hearing word from the Blendline team that the 818 team understood that the pit window would close at the end of lap number 80, and Callum is just checking the supplementary regulations to see, but it's saying on timing pit window closed, and we believe it's pit window closed, and it says 10.5 in the supplementary regulations. The compulsory pit stops will open when the race leader crosses the line to commence lap 20 until the race leader crosses the line to complete lap number 70. That has already been done, and that car on the screen has not completed both of its compulsory pit stops. So expect a large penalty for the 818 machine. This is the car that won this race 2 years ago, and it's been running really nicely. Set the fastest lap of the entire race 3 laps ago, a 1 minute 32.3, and now it was very much out of contention, you'd think, in this race, because a big penalty will be coming their way. Speaking of fast laps, Zach Bates, PB in the number 14 machine, 134.9, only 3.9 seconds behind the Lotus of Townsend. So that's an interesting one out there on the race circuit at the moment. So that's the battle for 5th position on track. But Townsend, or the 173 machine, it's not Townsend behind the wheel now, it's Wames who is behind the wheel of that Lotus. They are leading Class B effectively because the 818 car will be hit with a substantial penalty. Behind that, Josh Haynes now behind the wheel of the Nissan Pulsar is leading Class D and doing a magnificent job. A second stop was just made for the Zabatakis and Jet Herring Mazda MX-5, and that has put them a lap down compared to several of their competitors, but they still sit in 8th position ahead of the 322 of Tierney, which is 2nd in Class D, and Thulis is 3rd in Class D, rounding out the top 10 positions in this race. The leader in Class E is a little bit further down the order, just outside the top 10 in position number 14. That is the Ben Hannaran machine, shared of course with Charlie Viola, who Dave spoke to in the lane not too long ago. So there's plenty of action still to play out here. There's certainly going to be a bit of conjecture, I can't say it at this time of the evening, nope, still can't say it, for the 818 machine. Callum, I'm going to hand over to you. I can't say anything at the moment.
Endurance commentary there, mate. Fantastic effort so far for the car on screen, apart from that little mishap down at turn 3. So the 114 Falcon filtering through turn 3, and the 144 Pulsar as well. And that car is currently in position, not 15, apologies. It's still doing a good job. It's been caught by Tabitha Ambrose behind the wheel of the number 1 Hyundai Veloster. But we believe Dave Stillwell down in the pit lane. You've got an update.
You believe correctly, Callum. So we've seen a remarkable amount of mechanical attrition, but despite that, the race has run without Hyundai i30, and safety car interruptions so far. The number 86 Toyota to my right, to your left on screen, turns out the driver went for a little bit of a safari through some of the rough off-track areas here at Winton Motor Raceway, and they've cracked the radiator. We were having a chat with the team from BYP, who are running the 818 car. Appears it was a little bit of a misread of the regulations. They anticipated the CPS window closing at the end of lap 80. Unfortunately, as we have checked with the supplementary regulations and the siren that we heard in pit lane just a few minutes ago, the CPS window has closed, so that team can expect a bit of a penalty. In the garage next door in 14B, we've got the driver who's done the first half of the race on board the number 33 Evo, Lee Burgess. Lee, tell us, how was that race for you?
Yeah, look, it was a fantastic. I'm actually not sure how many laps I did in that first stint, but it was a very clean start. You got a few guys in Class B, I think, in the first few laps, and then to one point, we might have even been leading the race there. So, yeah, good start for 300.
Now, we saw from our telecast of the Pitcher Partners Sydney 300 that your pit window is actually very narrow in the middle of the race based on the fuel capacity in the Evo. Obviously, you ran past the halfway mark, you got that fuel stop done. Although we did see at the end of last year's Winton 300, your dad having to limp the car home, obviously stuck in one gear with no clutch. I take it everything's running okay this year?
Yeah, look, touch wood this weekend. Yeah, the car's been running faultless. Yeah, Evo's out here in the heat this afternoon, doing lap after lap and being nice and consistent. So a bit of luck. The last 30-odd laps now, Dad can bring it home.
Well, definitely. We wish you the best of luck. We look forward to seeing you in Victory Lane later today.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Whoa.
Jerry Burgess having a bit of a moment there, wrapping up that interview, running ever so slightly wide on the driver's left-hand side coming out of turn 2. Jerry Burgess with a handful of oversteer, but getting it back together, regaining his composure. But it's a big well done to Lee Burgess for that opening stint, because they did a splendid job to put the car where it is currently in position 4. So Jimmy Tran still leading the way on the timing screen in Class B, but also overall classification. Andrew Boydell, the defending winner, alongside Todd Herring, who I believe is behind the wheel at the moment, defending Sydney 300 winner. Todd Herring, very familiar with MX5 machinery, currently doing a brilliant job in second position. The 791 MX5 of Boydell and Herring is in Class C. It's completed its single stop, and it is about a minute off the pace, a minute off the lead from Jimmy Tran. They've also got a handy 30-second margin between themselves and Giantini in the number 13 Civic. So they're looking pretty good at this point of the race as the sun continues to set, as the drivers begin to squint as they're trying to look through this part of the circuit with the sun shining straight into their eyes. The Boydell Herring 791 entry looking good to repeat, make it 2 from 2. Winton 300 victories in as many years. Here's another unique example of the refueling solutions open to the teams up and down pit lane. This is the VW Fun Cup car, the number 55, pulled into the pit lane, and they've obviously pre-filled the canister and they're dumping it straight into the fuel tank at the front. So that's a very smart solution. No, it only requires one person to carry the canister and unload it into the fuel tank. And now that the fueling process has been completed, he's literally going to climb out of the car and hand it over to his co-driver. But this is a very tidy pit stop procedure. They've obviously practiced it throughout the weekend in the warm-up as well as in the garage between sessions to ensure that they know exactly what they need to do. And the driver can't actually set off until they've safely re-plugged in the 6-point harness, as well as attaching the net as well. They cannot move away from their pit box until they have affixed that. So plugging in the driver. This is the Pecco and Beggs entry, the number 55 VW Fun Cup car. And we've got 2 of them in this race this weekend. It looks like he's actually taking his phone out of the vehicle as well. But this is looking very much under control, Dan. So as we're talking about, Giantini currently sitting in P3 on the timing screen in the number 13 entry. Not lapping as quick as Boydell, so that gap is actually starting to grow between Andrew Boydell in the lead from Giantini in position 2.
I'm going to say, actually, Callum, I've been keeping an eye on that. It depends on traffic. It really does. So some laps it's Giantini who's faster. Other laps it's Herring behind the wheel who's faster. And it's trading almost lap upon lap. So Giantini lost 5 seconds the last lap. This time only 1 second. However, the lap before was 2 seconds faster than Boydell. So it's altering, it's changing. They're pretty much equal out there on the circuit at the moment. As we see the Fun Cup car in the lane at the moment, and it takes off going out of the lane. Another PB lap from Zach Bates last time through. It is remaining on the tail of that Lotus, the 173 machine, as it has done all stint long so far. It's brilliant that the Super 2 driver is able to keep up with a Lotus Exige while driving a Toyota 86, but that shows the talent of young Zach Bates. There's a reason why he's driving for Walkinshaw Andretti United in the Super 2 series, and he's taken a race victory as well already this year. Here is the 791 machine. We've touched on it already. Andrew Boydell behind the wheel, and well, his co-driver Herring is at the moment, but Boydell running nicely. The combo out there at the moment. This is quite a story because nobody has ever gone back-to-back at the Winton 300 before. Could Boydell be the first to do so? Touch wood. I'm touching wood at the moment.
Don't say it.
And Mazda has been quite successful here as well in the past. But it's here we are. The 818 machine is in the lane, head on hands for Jimmy Tran. I think they're putting fuel in the car as well. But so this looks like a what they would serve as their compulsory pit stop. I still expect a penalty to come, but fuel going in on lap number 79, which meets up with their story that they were saying they thought the pit window closed on lap 80. Unfortunately, it does not, but this pit stop won't count, and a penalty will be coming. And there we are, across the line that time through. Boydell and Herring have officially taken the race lead. Todd Herring behind the wheel at the moment is now the race leader out there on the circuit. And the margin is around half a minute with 20 laps to go. The Giantini Honda Civic not too far behind. And Dave Stillwell sending us a text message here in the commentary box letting us know he believes, and I believe it also, to be a 5-lap penalty. Yes, you did hear that correctly. 5 laps he has to stay inside the box. So a huge penalty, Callum.
Yeah, look, and they're sticking to their strategy, so they're sticking to their guns. This is exactly what they would have done if the CPS window was open till 80. So, though, unfortunate mistake for the BYP team. Ruining that mistake, unfortunately, because they've been so fast. Damon Ashton has put in a stellar stint to get this race underway. And Jimmy Tran is the fastest man of the race, a 1 minute 32.3 on lap 71. So much promise for that car, the Honda Integrator, but it's parked up in the pit lane and it's likely to receive a penalty for missing or not taking its CPS during the window outlined in the supplementary regulations distributed to the teams prior to this event. So Giantini in position 2, still about 30 seconds, half a minute between himself and Todd Herring in the lead of the race, with Burgess showing in position 3 in the number 33. So Jerry Burgess still doing a great job, and he's actually jumped ahead of Jimmy Tran in race order on that last lap. And then Wemmy's in position 5, the 173 Lotus Exige. That is currently 5th place overall and 2nd in Division B. So the Lotus Exige is currently lapping in a 1 minute 35. So it's actually the quickest of the top 10 at the moment. But it's 1.4 laps adrift of the lead. So there's still plenty of time. There's 19 laps remaining in this race. Zach Bates in position 6. We talked a lot about him in this race. And we should highlight his efforts in the top 10 shootout yesterday to get that car well and truly inside the top 5 for the start of this race. Josh Haynes behind the wheel of the Division D, number 41 Nissan Pulsar, doing a great job in 7th position. So Josh Haynes taking over the young car wash entry from Michael Ricketts. Dave Stillwell, you're in the pit lane.
I am, guys, and usually we give people the commentator's curse before they have an issue, but unfortunately this time we've had to come down to the BYP garage to have a chat with Damon here. Now, you were the first driver in the 818. You did have to complete 2 stops. You got your first CPS out of the way early on. You had a 2.5-minute CPS to complete. Now, our reading the rules and judging by the fact we heard the siren in pit lane that said the CPS window was closed at the end of lap 70, you've conducted that stop outside of that window. Can you tell us what seems to have happened there?
I think we're just focusing on the race, to be honest with you, and I was told to come in, so I came in. And I think Benny's he's in the car now, and I think he's probably just overlooked it, to be honest with you. Yeah.
So from our reading of the rules, it looks like you might be incurring a 5-lap penalty for that. That looks like it might drop you just outside the top 10. Is there much else you've got in the tank for the rest of the race?
Well, we've got Jimmy Tran in the car. He's pretty quick. He's pretty handy behind the wheel. So I think if we're going to make up some time, he'll be able to do it.
Well, the good thing is that now that you're obviously running in Division B, you can run as fast as a 1 minute 31.000. So there's plenty of lap time left in the 818 BYP K-swapped Integra.
Sorry, say that again?
I'm about to say, is there plenty of pace left in the car if he wants to push a bit harder?
Oh, the car will go another 200 laps and do a 131 every lap. So he's pretty consistent. I'm confident he'll be able to reel the leaders in.
Not a problem. Well, we'll look forward to catching up with the end of the race and see what pans out. But look, commiserations to what was an incredible run, and of course, running 4th outright at the moment.
Thank you. Yep.
Back to commentary.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Damon. And hats off to Damon for taking the time to talk to us about the situation. It's never the best time to throw a microphone underneath someone, especially when it's live and you're in the heat of the moment. But a big hats off to the team for taking the time to talk to us. That's a pass on track there. So that is Tran up the inside of Burgess for position 3 on the circuit. But Jerry Burgess in at number 33 probably would have been advised by the team that they're not necessarily in the same race at the moment. So Jerry Burgess pressing on. He's got a fresh front left tyre after that pit stop, so he'll be benefiting from some fresh rubber at the top left. And there's probably a very good decision by the team to switch that out because the working side tyre, they actually had to do the same thing at the Sydney 300 where they changed the front right tyre for the anti-clockwise circuit. So based on that experience, with a fresh front left, Burgess is lapping in 1 minute 39s. He's consistent and he's still maintaining a healthy gap over Wemmy's in position 4, or effectively position 4. Wemmy's is a bit quicker in outright pace, but he's got 47 seconds to close down with 17 laps remaining in this race.
The top 2 continuing to exchange who is faster out there on the circuit. Last time through, there's only a 10th between them. But that margin has come back just under half a minute now at 28.2 seconds. So it is very much traffic dependent out there on the racetrack. The record of the biggest win here in the Pitcher Partners Winton 300 is 2 laps. I certainly don't think we're going to be seeing that today. It's going to be a lot closer than that in the closing stages of this race. 16 laps to go, and there are still 4 cars on the lead lap of this motor race. We've spoken previously about the pole position curse this year. It was the Kaptanovich and Thompson machine that started on pole position. The pit stops didn't go their way at all. There's a bit of a fumble, a bit of a mix-up, and they are outside of the top 10 in position number 12, 5 laps down. So the pole position curse continues. Nobody has won from pole since this event was revived in 2011. So it's been quite some time since a pole sitter won the Winton 300. As we see the cars continue to circulate. There is a Mazda MX-5. As I say, Mazda's taken the MX-5, won 3 300s in the past. And as well, the Sydney 300 just a few months ago in 2024 with Todd Herring taking the victory on that day in what was a very
eventful race, that is for sure. This has certainly been a much cleaner race with strategy playing out and really playing a huge factor in determining the outcome of this race. This has been a much more traditional and intriguing endurance race, whereas the Sydney 300, with all its stoppages, I think there was 8 safety cars in the end, is more like a sprint race between safety cars. As look, once again, the Hyundai Veloster is playing games out there on the racetrack for Tabitha Ambrose. What a shame. There it goes. It's just died again on the exit of turn number 3 and straight back to life once more. How strange is that this continues to happen almost every 5 or 10 laps. The car has come in the lane so many times now in this motor race, and just to say it packs up once more. So yeah, this is really not the way that the driver training Australia team would have wanted this race to go. And she is quite far down the order now, is Tabitha Ambrose, sharing the car with Brad Gardner, as we alluded to earlier on in this motor race. There's the race leader, the 791 machine. The lead has been reduced in the last couple of laps down to 27 seconds now out there on the circuit. But Callum, we haven't actually mentioned at all this weekend, it's very important we do so, that the winner of the Winton 300 goes home with the Michael Ronk Memorial Trophy in memory of the late CEO of this very circuit. It was first awarded back in 2013, and Michael Ronk was key really in this Winton circuit for so many years. So it's important that we mention the fact that the Memorial Trophy is named in his honour here, and the winners will go home with the Michael Ronk Memorial Trophy for the Pitcher Partners Winton 300.
Andrew Boydell and Todd Herring are in the box seat at the moment to claim their second trophy in as many years, and of course they're all out there charging as hard as they can. Oh. That's a very close moment there between Hanrahan and Wemmys in the 173 Exceed, with Gene Tini with the box seat view of that near altercation there at turn 11. So that was a little bit too close for comfort, but luckily they didn't appear to make contact there. But it's a good example of the endurance component of this race. The sun is getting low. The drivers are starting to get just a little bit tired. It's been a long weekend building up until this point. There's been practice sessions, qualifying sessions, a top 10 shootout, a warm-up this morning, and to finish it off, you've got to do 100 laps of the Winton Motor Raceway. So it's an extremely hard task at hand to be able to race through, and at this point they're starting to get a little bit tired. It's not just the drivers, it's also the machines, it's also the crew. There are so many factors coming into this point, so with the sun setting low, they've really got to be alert, stay awake. They've really just got to be as sharp as they possibly can. It's mentally taxing, it's physically taxing, it's a massive effort for the drivers to do what they are doing, and they're pressing on as hard as they possibly can, and they're driving, if not, they're driving to a number which requires concentration, so they're trying to be consistent. There's so many factors that goes into endurance racing, and the 173 machine there nearly came unstuck there, so it's a hard task at hand. But grassroots endurance racing at its very best here for the Pitcher Partners Winton 300. We looked at the number 151 Mazda MX-5 before. I believe that's the only car at the moment with a single driver in the car behind the wheel. They can elect to have 1, 2 or 3 drivers per entry, and only one driver can enter one car at any given point, as in you can't one driver can't drive 2 cars. There's no cross entries as written into the regulations. But the 151 entry, they must be feeling particularly tired because they've done the entire endurance race up until now.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, you can do it is single driver, 2 drivers or 3 drivers. We've had one driver combination and 1 3-driver combinations, but all the rest, all the other 37 cars have just a pairing. I spoke to a few drivers earlier on in the weekend, and there's quite a few single drivers in the Sydney 300, but they're saying because of the nature of the Winton circuit, it's a very physical track. You're often constantly turning the car. There's not too many brakes around this circuit. It's a real physical task to do 100 laps as a sole driver around this circuit. You think There's 12 turns on this circuit. You've got to do that 100 times. You are turning the steering wheel a hell of a lot. I mean, we're nearly getting to the 2.5 hour mark. By the end of the race, I think it'll be around about 2 hours and 45 minutes. It just shows what a physical encounter this Winton 300 is. It's such a historical endurance race. The first one ran back in 1985 as a production car race back then, won by Peter Fitzgerald and Barry Jones in their Mitsubishi Starion. In fact, it was dominated by Starions in the early years. The first 3 were won in Starions, and Fitzgerald, the inaugural winner, is still the most successful winner, the only driver to win it on 3 occasions, doing so in 1985, 87 and also in 1989. He actually won it in 1987 with a bloke called Alan Grice, who might be familiar to some people, I'm sure, a 2-time Bathurst 1000 winner. Of course, there's been some legendary names that have raced in this race, though, over the years. Even a young Mark Scaife, even before he raced in Australian touring cars, drove in this race. Neil Crompton. In fact, most of the commentary team of part of the supercars have raced here. Crompton, Larko, Scaife, basically all of them have competed in the Winton 300 over the years. And it's great to see that this event is back to its glory days. They've had smaller entry numbers the last couple of years, but a capacity grid of 40 cars at the start of this weekend. We only lost one prior to the start of this race, the Holden Astra. So to have 39 cars here this weekend is absolutely brilliant. The Pitcher Partners Winton 300 is back stronger than ever before. It's absolutely fantastic to see out there as the sun begins to set, and we can see the 2 Mazdas out there fighting on the race circuit. The 151 and the 411 machines out there on the course at the moment as they exit turn number 2 and roar down towards turn number 3, signalling the race leader through. They're a close-knit community, the Mazda MX-5 drivers. There is, of course, the MX-5 Cup, which runs around the country, and they're a real tight-knit community. They all know each other very, very well. Andrew Boydell was set to drive this car with Jason Walsh, who he won the race with last year, but Jason just a bit unwell at the moment, so we wish you well, mate, and hope to see you back here in 2025. So Todd Herring is mate and fellow Mazda MX-5 driver, the Sydney 300 winner. A great call-in, a great replacement driver.
Absolutely, Dan. The 411 MX-5 on screen at the moment. He was being chased down by the 151, which is Craig Barney, and we were talking about him just before, being, as we believe, the only single driver behind the wheel competing this afternoon, but allowing the race leader, Todd Herring, through, giving him more than enough space. And as you say, there's a lot of camaraderie amongst all competitors up and down the pit lane. It's not just brand specific, but more particularly between the Mazda MX-5 competitors, because they will definitely be the first people to reach out to one another or offer a hand if they ever need it. So this is the battle for, or this is actually the 411 car in position 19. The 151 of Barney just behind in position 20. A phenomenal effort given the massive task at hand. Racing this entire duration. Ooh, lock left front there. Going into turn 1. But a bit of a flat spot there. It shouldn't be too bad. Given that we are getting to the closing stages of this race. Here is the aerial display. It's not official, but they are here nonetheless, and they are getting the best view possible of the Pitcher Partners Winton 300. They must be taking in that glorious sunset and watching the near capacity field. And obviously it's been whittled down a little bit through attrition, but they're getting certainly the best view of the action from almost 100 metres up in the air, I would say it is, but they're taking it nice and easy. I think I'd like to take over that sail and that fan for just a few moments and enjoy the race from up there at one point. But here it is, once again, the 411. Slight lock-up earlier in this lap, and they've got the car of Craig Barney behind, chasing them down.
Boydell
the leader, I'll just run you through the class leaders and things. So at the moment, Boydell leading outright and leading Class C ahead of Giantini by 23 seconds. So that lead gap is certainly coming down, but not at a quick enough rate at this point in time for the 13 to catch up, but we will continue to keep an eye on that. Jimmy Tran in the 818 Integra remains in third, the B-class leader at the moment, but there's still that big asterisk of a potential penalty coming for not serving the second stop within the compulsory pit stop period. Lee Burgess is fourth on the road, third in Class C. Sorry, that's not Lee behind the wheel now, it's Jerry behind the wheel in the 33 Mitsubishi Evo. In fourth, or effectively fourth position, we'll call it as it is at the moment, Townsend, second in Class B in the Lotus Exige. We expect him to move up into that Class B winning position if a potential penalty comes for Jimmy Tran. Behind that, Zach Bates sits fourth in Class C in sixth position. The class leader in Class D sits in seventh. That's Josh Haynes behind the wheel of that machine, doing a great job at the moment. Touch wood there. And Zabatakis running in eighth position in Class 8th outright and 5th in Class C. Beyond that, we have several Class D competitors that round out the top 10. So the Tierney Toyota 86 is second in Class D, and Thulis is third in Class C. And in 13th E is Harahan, the Evo, rounding out the top 10 and leading E-Class. This is for position out there on the race circuit. For fourth position they are fighting. The Lotus coming on the tail of the Evo, but under brakes that Evo is mighty strong, but not as strong as the Lotus. It came from miles back, many car lengths back, it closed right up. We couldn't do anything with it. It's Wayne's behind the wheel, of the Lotus at the moment, and a nice exit out of the turn. Where can he go? What can he do? Down towards turns number 1 and 2. The Evo's got a lot more poke in a straight line, but the Lotus is far superior under brakes and in the turns. So I expect to move in the second sector, but will the Lotus, if a move is made, be able to pull ahead enough to claim the position and keep it when they get to the long straights on this Winton circuit? Here we are. This is where the Lotus comes into its own, this technical section of the course, the second sector of the Winton Motor Raceway. A stone's throw from Benella. This is the fight, as we say, for fourth on the road at the moment, but potentially third as the Lotus swings it up the inside. Waynes takes that one quite easily in the end, and through goes Haynes as well, unlapping one lap anyway on the 33 Evo. So he's marching through in the Pulsar is Haynes, but he's around about a lap behind Bates in position number 6 at the moment. Here comes Giantini in second position outright, gonna put a lap on the 4th place car. So only the 3 cars now on the lead lap of this race. The Boydell and Herring combination, the Giantini combination, and the 818 combination of Tran and Ashton out there on the circuit. But there's plenty of on-track action. Look at Bates. Bates is closing in here at the moment. This is for position as well, if he can catch up to the number 33. This is for a class podium out there in Division C. So this is exciting stuff here at the moment. The 13 is a lap ahead of these, but the 86 on the screen and the Evo, they are fighting for third in Class C and 5th outright in this motor race. Here they go into the turn. Late move from Zach Bates, but well and truly able to make that one stick. Awesome move from the youngster in the Shore Wine sponsored machine. Makes that one look easy. So that is now third in Division C for Zach Bates and 5th outright. Can he catch up to the Lotus? It's not too far ahead at the moment. Oh, that was a nice move. Unlapping itself on the car that's second outright in this motor race and catching the race leader at the moment. The gap's down to 17 seconds now. There is just over 5 laps remaining This is really good stuff at the moment. We might be 94 laps into this race, Callum, over 2.5 hours into this motor race, but there's still on-track racing all the way through the field.
Still plenty of time to go, Dan. Heaps of action to come, and anything can happen, which was a common rhetoric up and down the pit lane from competitors. There's a long way to go in this race, and we have got 17 seconds between Todd Herring and Giantini between positions 1 and 2. Now that gap does tend to ebb and flow as they're trying to filter through the traffic. As Dan suggested, it is very traffic dependent, is the gap between those two cars. But anything can happen. There could be a late race safety car. There could be anything to come up and throw a cat amongst the pigeons as we count down the closing stages of the Pitcher Partners Winton 300. I'm thoroughly impressed by Josh Haynes in that Nissan Pulsar. You can see the orange car on screen there just ahead of Zach Bates. That Class D car is certainly leading the way in Division D, but to be 7th position overall, they were just steadily chipping away throughout the day and through their pit stop sequence. They did drop down ever so slightly, but they are back up into the top 7. An incredible effort there. Now the gap's been, or so the gap there to try and take a nice easy opportunity to go up the inside of Haynes there for Zach Bates was closed firmly by the lapped traffic in the background there, and it's actually starting to hold up Giantini ever so slightly. So this is going to slightly hamper his efforts to try and close the gap to the leader. But Todd Herring and Andrew Boydell still odds on at the moment in the 791 Spy Optic Mazda MX-5. Zabatakis in 8th position in Class C, so they're 4th in class. Very impressed by her efforts, behind the wheel of the MX-5, stepping into that car since Todd Herring has stepped behind the wheel of the current outright leading car as well.
Could have been even higher potentially. They not needed to make a second compulsory. Well, there was one compulsory stop that needed to be served, but a second stop was made, and that cost them around about 1.5 minutes. And I'm looking at where that would put them if they didn't lose that 1.5 minutes. It would have been right around the Bates-Burgess-Townsend battle, or the Wayne's battle, I should say, that we're seeing on the racetrack at the moment. So would have been right in there, around about 4th position on the racetrack. So a real shame there. Not sure if it was due to fuel, not being able to make it on a single stop, not entirely sure. But a few cars have been caught out. There's a few cars and a few drivers telling us earlier on in the weekend, we need a safety car. If we want to do it on one stop in Class C, we need a safety car. And that may have affected some of the drivers and team combinations out there in this race. Going green all the way, it was incredibly unexpected that we would do this. And on lap 96, we remain green out there on the race circuit. So quite remarkable. And that has caught out, I think, several of the Division C competitors that I think really went gung-ho early and found themselves with not quite enough juice to make it to the end of the motor race. But we're looking at the moment on the 818 machine, who's been unlapping itself. It just got past Jerry Burgess out there, but or putting a lap, down on Jerry Burgess, sitting in 3rd position and quickly catching, let's be honest, the number 13 of Giantini. The gap now down to 11 seconds. He's catching around about 2 seconds a lap at the moment. Again, it does ebb and flow slightly depending on the traffic as he crosses the line. Yeah, it's just gone out a little bit, back out to 12 seconds, but it's a good performance from Jimmy Tran late on in this race, but a fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 32.3 second time, a superb time from the 818 machine, but looks like it's going to be a little short with just 4 laps remaining in this race. There'd have to be some real drama for the number 818 machine to take the race victory outright from here. But at the moment, Callum leading in Division B. So that's of significant note. As we look at the race leader, it's currently the second driver behind the wheel of Herring.
And we should point out, it does look very dark from our vantage point outside looking from the commentary box. It looks a lot more light on the TV screen for viewers watching from home on the Blendline TV broadcast. Big thank you to Blendline TV and the entire team behind the scenes working tirelessly to bring you these wonderful pictures. It's been a massive day for everybody involved, but they have been here early and they have certainly delivered these wonderful pictures. The live onboard cameras, the various camera points you can see all the way around the circuit, brought to you live and free on the YouTube channel and Facebook page via Blendline TV. So it's a massive thank you to the team. Also a big thank you to the AASA as well as the event organisers for round 3 of the VMRC, the Victorian Motor Racing Championship, incorporating the Pitcher Partners Winton 300 for putting on this weekend, because we've been treated to this wonderful endurance race. We're coming up on 2 hours and 43 minutes elapsed in this race. It is 5:30 local time. The sun is getting real low. It's starting to get extremely dark out there at the moment. There's a change for position on track there as the Giantini car goes up the inside of...
It's Bates that's got through on the Lotus. So Bates,
sorry, apologies
the
for that.
Toyota 80. Oh, and off goes the Lotus. A wheel's come off. A wheel has come off the Lotus Exige. That must be why it slowed so dramatically on this lap. And late race drama. Lap number 98 of the motor race. And the wheel has departed the rear of the Lotus Exige. There it is, stuck in the gravel trap down at turn number 6. It was running so nicely, the Townsend Wade's machine, but it has come to an abrupt halt late on in this race. What on earth has happened there? I just saw it was running really slow on the first half of the lap. Bates shot through like it was standing still. Clearly that wheel was already loose, and the Lotus was suffering with some sort of dramas, and it has completely departed the machine.
And the left rear is also looking on an odd angle as well on the back of the Lotus Exige. Wemmies, that's unfortunate. That's heartbreaking stuff there for Townsend and Wemmies. That's dropping them out off the podium. And Dan pointed out rightly so that they did drop a position just before we saw that dramatic end, that dramatic conclusion for that car that exits at turn 6 on the left-hand side. Now, given that there's 2 laps remaining in this race, we don't anticipate a safety car. There's local yellows there. We've got another car that's peeled off on the infield as well. But here's Wemmies. He's assessing. He's trying to believe. I guess he's somewhat in shock about what's just happened, because that's a relatively high-speed part of the circuit, especially as you've got the fast sweeping left-hander. And oh, that's Rice in the number 37 FPV Falcon.
From 15th position, and more importantly, they're all dropping off late on in this race. What on earth is happening here? But the Rice car was in the fight for a Division B podium, and now the 411 machine has come to a stop. He was running 4th as well in Division E, and not too far away from a Division E podium. So it's really gone off in the closing laps of this race. There's cars littered around the circuit at the moment, but out front the 791 machine is out front and has not been involved in any of these incidents and cars stopping out there on the circuit, and the 791 machine will commence the final lap of the race. The lead margin has come down significantly in the last couple of laps, but I think it's a case of just trying to bring it home at this point in time. Don't want to throw it down the road, don't want to cause any sort of mechanical dramas either. So the margin down to 7.8 seconds. Giantini is closing in, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit too little, a little bit too late this time around. But there's still half a lap to go, and I don't want to call it now after everything I've seen. I've just seen as well out the commentary box the dust there that was caused by the 322 Toyota 86 of Tierney running slightly wide. That's the Division D second place runner at the moment. So as the sun set late on in this race, the drivers out there, mistakes are starting to creep in. Mechanical melodies are starting to reoccur once more as well. This has been a dramatic conclusion to the 2024 edition of the Pitcher Partners Winton 300. But there's just a couple more corners to go for this machine on the screen. You can see the 13 behind it now. This is really closing up late on in this race. There is Boydell, yes, absolutely, watching on from the side of the circuit. If this car makes it around the final couple of corners, he will be a back-to-back 300 winner. This time though, Todd Herring is his co-driver, and Todd Herring is turning it into the final corner. These guys have plucked away at it today, and come the end of this race, they are the Winton 300 champions once again. The 791 Mazda MX-5 takes victory. A superb performance from Herring and from Boydell. A great drive from both of them. The winning margin in the end, just 6.5 seconds. Giantini really closed in late on, and so did Jimmy Tran as well. In the end, the top three separated by just over 11 seconds. That was mighty close in the end. Cars continue to come across the line. Haynes there crossing the line in the Pulsar, winning Division D. A great performance from that combination of Haynes and Ricketts. Thoroughly deserved that one. Really were the class of the Division D field all day long, and took the victory in their class by over a lap in the end. Across the line goes Zach Bates and Jerry Burgess, sharing with Lee Burgess in their Evo. Another top 5 finish, podium last year, but I don't think they'll be too disappointed with 5th outright in the race and 4th in Division C. The cars continue to come across the line in what was an eventful Pitcher Partners Winton 300. There was lots of drama early in the race. There was lots of strategy that played out in the middle, and then a lot of drama at the end, Callum.
Indeed. What a race. The Pitcher Partners Winton 300 final results. Home in the lead. Todd Herring brings home the 791 Spy Optic car that he shares with Andrew Boydell. Boydell becomes the first repeat winner, the 2-time winner of the Winton 300 in its modern iteration. Aaron Giantini bringing home the car, 6.5 seconds adrift. As Dan said, that gap had been worked down ever so slightly from about 32 seconds with 20 laps remaining in the race. Jimmy Tran home in 3rd position. There will be some discussions with the race officials after the race, but a fantastic effort by Jimmy Tran and Damon Ashton. It should be said they've put together a fantastic package for the weekend. Zach Bates alongside his father Rick Bates home in 4th position. Lee Burgess it's Jerry Burgess behind the wheel that brings the car home that he shares with Lee Burgess in the number 33. Josh Haynes home in 6th position in the car he shares with Michael Ricketts. Kiara Zabatakis in 7th position. Glenn Townsend is showing in 8th position, but that car was spearing off into the kitty litter on the left-hand side with just a few laps to go. Matthew Thewlis and Jeff Tierney rounding out the top 10.
Names continue to come through. The pole sitters in the number 8 BMW. Sadly, it was not their day today. The pole curse continues. They finished in 11th ahead of James Hay. And Dave, I believe you're down there with our winners of the Winton 300. Dave, over to you.
Well, after some of my recent interviews have ended up with cars pulling over to one side or experiencing mechanical maladies, I stayed well clear of the number 791 MX-5, the Spy Optic MX-5. Of course, the 2 drivers here join an elite club. Of course, you join the list of back-to-back winners and multi-winners of Winton 300. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little in shock.
And of course, my main man, Mr. Herring here, joins an elite list of 300 winners who've gone back-to-back in 300 events, taking out the Pitcher Partners Sydney 300 2 months ago, and of course the Winton 300 today. You had to work a bit hard for that one.
Oh, mate, that was definitely hard work. I'm lost for words, mate. That car he's built is unbelievable. It's on rails, and yeah, everyone was courteous in the race. It was good racing. I'm lost for words, man. I'm buggered.
Well,
you got to work harder in them cars.
Now, of course, you managed to do the race solo last year with just the single stop in Division C. Was there much?
Last year I had Jason.
Oh, okay.
Sydney was solo.
Sydney was solo.
Yeah.
So, was there much change to the strategy from last year?
No, we stuck to the same strategy. Just get out, keep with the leaders in the first half, and bring it home in the second was the goal.
Now, and of course, you got in the gun hot shoe from the Sydney 300, who's gesturing for a little bit of refreshment. Guys, what more can we say? Really, really well done. There's some people you'd like to thank.
Definitely Spy Optic, definitely Todd, who stepped in this week to fill the void of Jason not being well enough to race, and my garage mate Stephen Head, who helps me all the time. And our tuner, David Radders from MXI Mania, who tuned the car beautifully. It's just running like a song. It's fun to do.
Now, Todd, we should also say this is also the second race that you've put your son in another car, and you've also defeated them on the outright place. At some point, you're going to have to let the young fella have a crack at an outright win themselves.
Yeah, mate, he did great. I'm sure he did. He got a little bit more to learn. I've got a few more hours up than him. I'd just like to thank Newline Oils, G-Lock Brakes, Andy for the drive, all his sponsors, my wife, my family, everyone here. It's just a great event. Thank you.
And an atmosphere with 21% oxygen in it, it would appear. We'll move on down through the High-Tech Oils pit lane here at Winton Motor Raceway, moving down to position 2 outright. What an incredible run from the Giantini boys. You managed to do a very long stint with just a single stop in Division C. Well done.
Yeah, well, the car held on. It was a little bit scratchy for there most of the park because it overheated a little bit. I think you set it up a bit high, but that's all right. No, it went faultless from beginning to the end. We just pushed it as far as we could on the fuel, and then I just gave it to Aaron and just send it, see what we can come up with. And it was getting really close at the end. Came within like 10 seconds of gap between first, second, and then 10 seconds again, second and third. So I was kind of sitting there a bit tense, but we made it happen at least second. So hopefully next time we're going to be on the top one, but at least it's 2 from 2, I guess, in the second step. So good stuff.
Well, it was a really good run for the K-powered Civic. Can you tell us what more could you have done today to maybe have had a crack at outright victory? Was there a little strategy tweak? Or was it just luck with traffic? What happened there?
To be honest, I think it's probably just down to traffic. Caught a lot of traffic once we come out of the pits, but it is what it is. It's part of these long games. So stoked with second again. Was that 2 seconds this year in the 300? So twice second to Mr. Todd over here. So we're gonna have to try and catch him on the next one. But yeah, we'll just do what we do. Just send it.
or maybe we'll just find a spare turbo kit for a K20 and just accidentally install that under the bonnet. Now, there has been a late race adjustment. We were talking about the 818 BYP car, of course. That car was receiving we anticipate a 5-lap penalty being applied for that car due to a not taking care of its CPS requirement within the window. We've also had an adjustment. There was a 1-lap penalty applied to the number 14 Bates & Bates Toyota 86. That means it's my very good friends, the Burgess family, aboard the number 33 Evo. They're doing a really great happy snap with all the crew here. We're going to jump in with Lee and Jerry. We'll get a shot with you first. Now, last year we were having a chat. You'd nursed the car home with a dodgy clutch. I think you had about 1 gear left for the last 15, 20 laps. Was it a much nicer race with all 5 speeds in the gearbox?
5 speeds, great coming down the back straight in 4th and 5th down the main straight. So a lot better day than last year where it limped home. But I'll give it to the old Evo. She got us home last year even with only 3 gears. But yeah, no, really enjoyed the race today. Just perfect weather for racing, and Lee put in a magnificent effort to get me well and truly into the race. So I just had to bring it home. And he did all the hard work in that first stint up to about close to lap 60.
Well, of course, when we had that chat at the Sydney 300, you guys said that your fuel window was quite narrow in terms of how long into the race you can run the Evo. Now, Lee, you obviously had the car for the first half of the race. Did you have any idea that a result like this was in the offing?
Oh yeah, look, from the start we're in Class C, but we always come here to race for outright. So once the green flag, we're always going for outright. So good result, and a top 5 it would have been nice, but 3, it's a fantastic result.
Once again, really great job to the two of you. I look forward to seeing you at future editions of the Pitcher Partners Winton 300. Good job. What an incredible race. We've often seen victories come from different divisions in the Winton 300. We're going to make our way back to our outright winners. Of course, the first place trophy is going to be presented by the president of the Benalla Auto Club, Barry Stylo. So we've got that here for our winners of the Winton 300. I'll just hand over to Barry Stylo, who's going to present the perpetual Mick Ronk Trophy. And again, what an incredible feat by our winners today. I'll hand over to Barry. Barry, can you tell us what this trophy means to the club?
Well, it's just one of those things that take a lot of getting and a lot of effort and everything like that. And the club welcomes to provide it, and then the drivers have got to work like crazy to win it.
Definitely. Of course, I can say from a personal standpoint, I really enjoy the event because it started in 1985 and so did I. So great to see that things from the 1980s continue on to this day. Can you say a little bit more about what Mick Ronk meant to the club? I guess he was massively important in bringing this event back.
Yeah, he was. There's no doubt about it. He put it on the map. There's no doubt about that. And he did a good job. And besides a few things that went on, he just forged ahead and took everybody with him, and that's where we are now.
Well, I think I'd take this as an opportunity on behalf of everyone who supports grassroots motorsport in this country. Thank you to you, the Benalla Auto Club, and everyone who makes access to motorsport available to us.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And I just love to be here, and I'm glad to be part of it, part of the rest of the team and everything like that. I just like to see everybody enjoying themselves and doing something, I don't know, just motor racing. That's all I've ever done in my life.
Well, the two worthy recipients of the Mick Ronk Trophy did an awful lot of motor racing today. Congratulations to the Spy Optic MX-5, number 791. Guys, you did a great job. Congratulations. Enjoy your trophy.
Yeah! Go the MX-5!
On behalf of everyone at the Blendline TV crew, on behalf of Winton Motor Raceway, the Benalla Auto Club, the AASA, everyone involved in bringing you round 3 of the Victorian Motor Racing Championships here at Winton Motor Raceway, a huge thank you to everyone that's tuned in, whether you're local, up the road, across the country or around the world. We really appreciate your presence. Make sure you keep in those likes and subscribes on the Blendline TV YouTube channel, and if you're interested in following more grassroots motorsport, stay tuned to Blendline TV. We'll bring you more events like this, an incredible Pitcher Partners Winton 300 that couldn't have happened without your support and those of all of our Volunteer Motorsport Australia volunteer motorsport officials here at Winton Motor Raceway. Signing off here, David Stillwell. Want to say a huge thanks to Callum and Dan in the commentary booth, to Lisa Totani, my producer, to Dan and Liz and everyone who was part of the Blendline TV crew. A massive thank you to you. Signing off here in the pit lane at Winton Motor Raceway. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
We're about to go racing, 100 laps, 300 kilometres ahead of us. There is so much to play out over the next 3 hours of racing.
300 kilometres around this technical track is anyone's game.
There is so many unknowns, and in that respect we are going into the great unknown. Andrew Boydell and Jason Walsh are your 2023 Winton 300 winners.